I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 32, the granddaddy of them all, of Tales from Godric's Hollow. That's right. Episode 32 means one thing and one thing only. We have completed the third book in the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Give yourself a round of applause. We made it. It was a journey. It was an adventure. We did it together. I am one of your co-hosts, Josh Brown, a.k.a. the Muggle of the show. I am joined by the Sherpa who has guided us, specifically me, through this journey so far of the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Through 3 books now. He has managed to get me to read the first 3 books of Harry Potter. This man deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for his work and effort in making this happen. Matthew Sonnenberg.
How are we doing tonight, Josh?
Ramped up and ready to go, my friends.
That's what I like to hear.
We have
It's going to be a good episode.
We have quite a show in store. It's I got my Kleenex. That's the most preparation I think I need, because it's going to get a little touchy, a little dicey on the emotions as we start talking about this. But well, you know, if there are no dry tears at the end of this podcast, we did something wrong. Because if you don't feel the feels that were felt in this book, Matt, I kind of question whether or not you have a soul or a heartbeat. You know, like there was just some things happening in these 2 chapters, Matt, and you know, enough to make Voldemort just sniffle just a little bit, you know, like, you know, he's not going to show that he's crying, but he's trying really hard not to, you know.
Yeah, but in his current form, I'm not sure he's able to sniffle. So
I don't know what his current form is.
Nobody really does.
That's true.
I mean, ever since he left Quirrell's body, and when was the next time we saw him then?
I mean, saw him. I mean, saw the younger him.
Oh yeah, that's it. We saw Riddle.
Yeah.
Okay. He was rather put together, I guess.
Yeah. So I mean, but does that count? Like, was that him? Was that like his former? Okay. Forewarning for everybody out there listening, Matt. My head's a little mixed up. Okay. These last 2 chapters of this book messed with me, and there's some things I'm still not 100% sure of, because time travel is not something that my sensible brain is able to comprehend and fully wrap around. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah,
like,
I understand.
Like, I've seen 3 Back to the Future movies, right? I've seen all 3.
Yes.
Great trilogy. There's some things that happen in those movies that I just accept for being what it is without trying to think too much about it, because when you start going backwards and forwards and meeting your future self and past self and all this, you know, time paradoxes and stuff, like it starts to get muddy. And to be fair, I don't know how many people actually understand all of it. But
yeah,
when we start talking about this, it's gonna be a mess, Matt.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I like to see where your head's at, what you think of it. I definitely have my opinions, and I can tell you we got some opinions in the emails too. So
Sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how you take it.
Yeah. And one other thing. So I'm going to preface this by saying that I understand that no one's going to believe me. Okay. I did not put out or record Muggle Theories number 3 this week.
Yes.
I was texting you about it, and I kept saying I need to just like button up my theory just a little bit more before I record it, or I'm going to sound like a crazy person.
Sure.
The end of last week's podcast, I said something about Hermione time traveling. Now,
Yes, you did.
that wasn't an actual thought that I had. I just didn't know how to compress the mystery that was Hermione and her being able to take multiple classes at once into something other than like time travel was the first thing that just spilled out of my head.
Yeah.
And I didn't put much thought into it until a few days later, and I started thinking about the possibilities of time travel. And I even went back, Matt, to the beginning of the book, right?
Sure.
When Ron had the was it Ron or Harry? Ron gave Harry the sneaker scope.
Sneakoscope, yep.
Sneakoscope, right? Okay. So I was like, I was remembering that, but in my head I couldn't remember if Hermione had something as well. So I was like reading the old chapters from the beginning of the book, trying to figure out before school started if Hermione had mentioned having anything, like any sort of like gadget or if she picked up on any sort of ability when she was studying abroad for the summer, like she was. I was trying to look for just like the smallest clue about what Hermione was doing and how she was able to do it. And I couldn't find anything in those old chapters about any sort of hint that Hermione had a specific gadget, which I, later found out was true, to help her, time travel, right? I was thinking, well, maybe something that like she could clone herself or like mentally partake in other activities while physically still being, because like no one had mentioned like seeing multiple Hermiones, like that would have been like a cloning issue, so I didn't know, but I was looking for things and I couldn't find anything. But I was just in my head, I was thinking the main things that I was focusing on was how Hermione is able to be in multiple places at once and also like still retain all the knowledge from everything going on. But also the Buckbeak thing was still eating at my craw a little bit, Matt. Like I was not settled in the fact that just Buckbeak was just dead like that. Just DOA, right?
Yeah, you were not ready to let that go.
No, and that was because they specifically never like mentioned him dying. So I was like, okay, maybe he did die, and they just didn't want to like drag out the bloody details of his head getting lopped off, right? But I was like, I didn't feel right that he was just going to be gone, even if he was dead, that he was gone. So I was trying to figure out how he could be resurrected or brought back to life in some way, shape, or form. And then like the time travel thing I started thinking about, I was like, well, what if they went back and like prevented him from attacking Malfoy in the beginning, right? Like, could they go that far back? And then I started second guessing everything I was thinking, because at this point, time travel is not something that exists in this world.
Yeah.
We've never had any mention of time travel whatsoever.
Nope.
So I was concocting something that I wasn't even sure actually existed, That would be that would be like me just randomly saying there was a giant squid in a lake before there was ever mention of a giant squid in a lake, right? Like, why would I think of that? Why would there be? First of all, giant squids live in salt water, so for it to be in the lake in the first place is ridiculous. So I was like having anxiety about how I could rationalize thinking about time travel when we haven't had any mention of time travel whatsoever up until this point. So by the time I started thinking about recording it, I was just like, this is rubbish, Absolute rubbish, man. I can't do this to the audience because I'm going to sound like a whack job. Now I'm just inventing stuff for the sake of me talking about it, and nobody wants to hear that.
Well, I think they would. I think that's where you're a little bit off. Is people do want to hear what you're thinking, even if it is way off. And like you said, this time it really wouldn't have been that far off.
Hindsight's 2020, Matt. I understand that now.
I understand, and like I kind of wondered if that's where you're going with it, because like you threw it out there at the end of last episode, and people caught on to that, and like, wait, does he really not know? Like you have some people really confused. I'm like, wait, did we talk about that like later in some of the emails too? But even before that, when earlier in this book, when you kept wondering how Hermione was getting to all the classes,
mm-hmm.
and like you mentioned that no one's seen like two of her,
right?
But we did have mention of like. Harry and Ron saw her in their class, and then they talked to like I think it might have been Ernie Macmillan or something. And it's like, yeah, she's never missed this class either. That's at the same time,
right?
So like they never saw them together, but they each saw Hermione at the same time. And
right.
And when you said you went back and looked for clues,
mm-hmm.
I'm surprised you didn't find something. Because I had a specific note of the biggest clue that we got.
There was something that I missed?
So it's back. I had to pull it up, but this is why I'm so glad I take notes on these things. Even if I don't talk about them in the other episodes.
We're all grateful, Matt.
Make notes of these because I know I want to talk about it later.
Sure.
But we have Hermione. They're coming back after potions class,
mm-hmm.
and
okay.
Yeah, you kind of remember this now.
No, I stopped looking once they got to school because I was like, well, if she doesn't have anything at this point, then I'm not going to find anything.
Oh, you stopped once they got to school?
Yeah, I was just looking for like the early chapters when they met up at like in Diagon Alley and such.
Well, yeah, okay, but you remember the first thing she did when she got to school, essentially?
Went to go see Professor McGonagall?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the meeting with McGonagall where Ron was left out in the cold. Harry and Hermione went to meet with McGonagall. McGonagall told Harry something, then sent him off, and then she talked to Hermione separately.
Yeah. I mean, I had a hunch McGonagall was in on something, but that wasn't going to help me figure out what was going on.
But then later on, they're coming back from the potions class, and they're all running up the stairs. I think they're going back to the dorm, and Ron's talking to Harry, and then he talks back to Hermione, and it's like, wait, where'd she go?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, she was down at the bottom of the stairs, tucking something down the front of her robes.
Right. I vaguely remember that too.
Yeah.
And then being like confused. But again, like everything started happening and it was like, well, whatever. Hermione's being weird.
Exactly. And I'm kind of glad you did. Like you brought it up.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to say anything. I'm like, yeah, but we're not going to get into that conversation.
Right.
But
even if I had pinpointed that, I still wasn't going to be able to say, oh, she has this contraption that allows her to turn back time.
No, you wouldn't know exactly what it was, but the fact that she seemed to be in two places at once, the fact that she seemed to kind of disappear and reappear, and the fact that she had something that she was trying to hide.
Yeah.
Like I think that would have all fit nicely into your time travel theory.
Sure. I was just looking for like that smoking gun, where like at Diagon Alley she was like, oh, and I got this gadget over in
and
France.
By the way, I bought a time turner.
Or like just something. Like she didn't even have to say it by name, and then like quickly like moved on to something else, and normal J.K. Rowling stuff where it's just like you're looking at this hand over here and the other hand's going behind the back type of thing. So
yeah.
I was looking for like that, just that one mention of her finding something or picking up something or buying something or Ron giving her something where I was like, yes, that was there all along. And I couldn't find that thing. So I just moved on, Matt, and I just decided that I was too crazy for the internet. And then we read the final two chapters of this book, and I really was not happy with myself for not recording Muggle Theories number 3. Because
I can see it.
the praise I would have been showered with, Matt. Woo,
Yes.
boy. Would have been nice.
But I do like that you brought up the sneakoscope again too.
Yes. Well, I started looking for things, man. I was curious.
Yeah, but you remember what was going on with that? So Ron got it. He bought it over in Egypt, and he gave it to Harry, and then it was like just going off nonstop.
Yeah.
You ever think about that?
Yes, but there's so many weird things going on there that like I don't know what is pinpointing.
The sneakoscope is supposed to go off when someone is doing something untrustworthy nearby.
Sure, but I mean it's also near friend George a lot.
Yes, and that's what they wrote it off as, and it could have been affecting it as well. Mm-hmm. But even when they weren't necessarily around, it was still going off. That's why Harry buried in the sock in his trunk.
Right. Was it because of Scabbers, aka
there
Peter
you go.
Pettigrew? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
He was around the whole time.
Sure. We didn't get a final mention of that at the end of the book, which would have kind of like just circled back around perfectly, I thought, but
yeah.
Anyway, that's what I was looking for, and I couldn't find, and I just moved on from there. So
fair enough.
But I will say, Matt, I'm just going to throw this out here. We'll talk about it as we progress through this podcast here, but I made a couple notes of some things that J.K. threw in there at the end that I'm not 100% sure we're not going to come back to at some point in the game.
Fair enough.
So
that may play to your advantage because you remember that challenge I mentioned a couple episodes ago?
Yes.
We're going to get to that.
Are we now?
Yeah, we'll get to that by the end of the episode. So
I like it. Now I'm even more excited. Matt, we need to get into this. Chapters 21 and 22, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. We finished the third book. We have a lot to talk about. Like I said, get your Kleenexes ready. It's going to be an emotional roller coaster. What a jam-packed final 2 chapters this book was.
Absolutely crazy. Like I told you a couple chapters ago already that I forgot how back heavy this book is. And we get into these last 2 chapters and it's, well, essentially replaying the 6 to 8 chapters before it.
Right.
Like we're just doing this all over again from a different point of view now, and seeing different things, and different things are happening. But there's a lot to cover in just these 2 chapters.
So much.
So, chapter 21, Hermione's Secret. Mm-hmm. We don't have any actual new characters, but as I do, I like to note the names when we get them.
Okay.
We actually got a first name of the executioner, McNair.
Yes.
His name is Walden.
Yeah.
Which, for the life of me, if that had been a trivia question a week ago, I could not have given that to you. In my head, he's always just McNair, and I don't like him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the executioner. You're not supposed to really, but McNair, his first name is Walden. There you go.
Also, what a horrible day he had.
Yes.
I mean, you have one job, and that's to execute 2 different living beings, and you couldn't do it.
No, he kind of failed on both counts, but he had a lot of people working against him.
I know, but like he like got home and like took off his executioner mask and just slumped down in his rocking chair. He's like, I suck as an executioner. Like, this is it. I am no longer qualified to do the one job I'm qualified to do.
Just kind of pass the axe.
Yeah, he should have been out partying with Hagrid is what he should have been doing. But
there you go.
Yeah, he's just sitting alone, being all grumpy to himself. But okay, Matt.
Yes.
Confundus Charm.
Yes.
Have we ever heard of that before? Is that new?
That's a very good question.
Mm-hmm.
If this is the first mention of it, I want to say we've mentioned it before, but I could be just recalling what I know of
Yeah.
the Potter world.
Sure.
If you think it's the first time, let's see.
Well, here's my problem, Matt. I don't remember the charms. I don't remember the names of them. I need to start making myself like just a little notebook of just like all the different charms we come across and how to use them and how to say them correctly. Because this came across and I'm like, I don't know if this is a new one or one that we've already learned. And because for the life of me, I can't remember ever hearing it.
Well, according to the Harry Potter wiki, the first mention is in Prisoner of Azkaban. So I will say this is the first mention.
Okay. That makes me feel a little better. But like,
yes,
other than like the Wingardium Leviosa?
Wingardium Leviosa, yes.
Other than that one, I couldn't tell you a single one. I couldn't even tell you the Patronus charm.
Expecto Patronum.
Yep, nope, not gonna remember that.
Do you remember Alohomora?
Nope. What's that?
That's the one. It's used to unlock things.
Oh yeah, no, that's what Bowtruckles are for, Matt.
Yeah, we don't have them yet. Sorry. At least they don't have them at this school. So.
Yeah, well, that's unfortunate.
But that Alohomora is the one we saw in the first book when Hermione used it to open the door that was hiding Fluffy.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was like the very first spell we really got a name of, I think, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
To be honest, it's probably the most well-known among Potter fans. Like, if you ask for a spell, most of them will probably give you Alohomora.
Oh, okay. Well,
I would think personally.
I just need like a Muggle handbook to Harry Potter spells is what I need. Just give me the name, how to pronounce it, what it does.
Sure, they're out there, of course. It's just I can't like share them with you because it's like
no, I need to start like just keeping them myself as we come across them.
Okay.
Yeah,
because like you get into this and it's like, oh, and it was used all these places and this is what it did and who used it and who cast it and when. And
no, I'm not
like,
trying to get that.
No,
I just want to start keeping it myself. Of just like,
well, there you go. There you go.
But I'm 3 books in. I feel like I need to go back and reread the whole thing now.
I'm sure we could help you fill that out if you want to start it now and leave a couple pages in front or something.
If people would love to help out with that, of like spells we have already come across, I would be ever so grateful.
There you go, folks. Books 1 through 3. Find all the spells that are in the books and send them in.
Look at that. Give them homework. They got 2 weeks before, they have to read again. So they got to have something to do, right?
They're going to be bored.
Yeah. Okay. Back to this book. Back to this chapter.
Yes.
Rope it in here. So glad that Snape saved the day and is so proud of himself for saving the day. And
oh, yeah. It bothers me so much.
Again, like, Matt, this happens and all I'm thinking about is, Matt, I need you to justify this guy being your favorite character because this is not looking good once again.
I know. Like, he just keeps taking credit. I'm like, he doesn't even know what happened. He was knocked out the entire time, and then he woke up and just decided to take credit for everything. Yeah. Like, how do you explain what happened even?
Yeah. Like, he acknowledges that he got hit by a charm and was knocked out.
Yes.
But, like, and then at the same time, he's also, like, telling his version of the story. It's like, well, wait a second. How... You were clearly unconscious. How do you know what happened or didn't happen? Snape being Snape, Matt.
Yeah. But then during part of this whole thing, like, well, the Confundus charm, like, he was saying that Black had used it on the kids.
Right.
And so, like, he started, like, defending them almost. It's like, oh, yeah, it wasn't their fault. They were under this charm.
Which was also really weird.
Yeah, and the only thing I can figure is that Snape hates Black more than he does James Potter.
Yeah.
Because before everything came down to, I hate James Potter, I'm going to take it out on these kids.
Right. Or maybe it just sounded like, or maybe it was like a pride thing where he didn't want to acknowledge that he got taken down by, like, third-year students.
Oh, definitely.
You
Part
know,
of
so
it.
he was like, "There's no way they would have done that consciously, and I would have let them do it," you know, type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was again ever so conflicted on Snape and how he was acting, and just the things he was trying to pull, and like he gets put in his place, granted, but it's still. I just I'm waiting for that like one moment, that Snape face turn where it's like, okay, I understand why Matt adores this character.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for that, Matt.
Sure.
I feel like it's
I-
going to be a long wait, but
Yeah. Yeah. I understand what you're waiting for, and unfortunately, yeah, I can't help you this book. Sorry.
yeah. I'm just going to pose this question. Obviously, it's something that you can't answer, but something I consistently think about. Are we going to have a book where one of the trio isn't visiting Madame Pomfrey?
Yeah. That's interesting.
I just feel like they spend a lot of time with her.
I've never really thought about it, but yeah.
Like,
They do spend a lot of time up in the hospital wing.
and I understand it's like her way of like being in the book because it is Harry Potter's story that we're following along with here. So like if he or his friends weren't, you know, in the hospital wing, like we wouldn't ever really get Madame Pomfrey mentions. But like at the same time, there's other professors and other people at the school that like we don't hear from or get like just brief mentions of, and I'm okay with it, you know. So just Madame Pomfrey has her hands full with these guys.
She does, but it's. I think a big portion of why is because she is very versatile.
Yeah.
And she can take care of a lot of things.
Right.
Like anything from broken bones to petrification.
Mm-hmm.
It all works. So when she can fix all ailments, that's where you go.
I guess. I don't understand why the other teachers push her or test her boundaries. Like, she's a tough cookie, Matt. And
Yeah.
like Dumbledore, I feel like is like a little hesitant to kind of like throw his authority around with her. But only because he knows he could slightly get away with it, but I don't think he like likes doing it, you know?
Yeah.
Because she doesn't mess around. This woman is all business.
It's her area of expertise, and she wants to take care of it. She wants to be in charge. When in the hospital wing, she wants to be in charge.
Mm-hmm.
But Dumbledore, in particular, he wants to give her that respect, allow her that respect,
Right,
in her area. But at the same time, he knows there are times when he needs to step in and talk to people or do whatever Dumbledore needs to do.
sure.
And he needs a little space sometimes to do that, or just a little time to do that.
But
whatever.
she's still not afraid to mention that she's unhappy with it. Like in the final chapter, you know, she's throwing some serious shade at Dumbledore. She's like, "Can I get back to tending to my patients now?" Or you know, it's like, "Whoa, yes, please, Miss Pomfrey, do whatever you need." I just wouldn't mess with her. I don't know why Snape's even trying. Like, he's trying to act all bad and tough around her, and it's like, Snape, just stop. You're looking like a fool here.
Yeah. Snape is. We'll get to him later when we come back. But I love that scene.
Yeah, I would love. Okay, so like we have like the Professor McGonagall and Trelawney dynamic, you know.
Yep.
And that's because they're so like polar opposite in everything, but McGonagall and Pomfrey are so similar. Like, I want to know what that dynamic is like.
Yeah, I can see they probably got along together, and actually I don't know if they went to school together.
But if there's some sort of like power struggle, you know, trying to be
the
alpha between
you can see them being best friends.
Yes, but also like very competitive with each other.
Fair enough.
So,
But yeah, speaking of Madame Pomfrey, here's one I want to know. I want to see in the candy shop sometime. This chocolate boulder. Like she's running around with this giant chunk of chocolate that they reference as a small boulder.
Yeah.
And she is like chiseling pieces off of it. Like,
right.
I want this chocolate boulder.
To the point where the kids didn't even want chocolate after the fact. Like
Yes.
they had so much chocolate, they're just like, I never want chocolate again.
Yep.
We're done here. I feel like that probably got delivered along with like the hundreds of Dementors that got delivered to Hogwarts. So just like you're going to need this boulder of chocolate.
Well, no, I wouldn't say it was delivered necessarily. I would say she ordered it because she seems to be on top of things.
Yeah, maybe. But if she ordered it, someone had to deliver it, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, like see the owls that had to deliver that one.
Multiple owls. Depending on the strength and the size of the owls, I suppose. Okay, so then just things started happening, Matt.
Yes.
Things just started happening.
Or happening again.
Already happened? Okay, so time travel. Time travel's a real thing. Let's just throw that out there. Cannot confirm at this point whether or not they have to fly at 88 miles per hour to do so, but they were flying backwards, or so the sensation felt like.
Yep.
Okay, so in my notes, I was just like making mention of the fact that time travel exists also means that like time travel paradoxes exist, and like the rules that time travel always is associated with, like don't change the past, or you're going to alter the future in ways of, that's unexpected, and don't run into your former self or your past self or your future self, and all the normal like time traveling rules. They're all on the table here too. And I'm just like, great. Yeah, that's a whole nother level, a whole nother layer that I don't even want to think about, that now I have to.
Yeah, and that's where I think it turns out nice. Like all the general rules are pretty much here, and just the almost it almost seems too simplistic the way J.K. Rowling lays it out for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just works. Like I don't have too many questions about it.
No, I started getting anxious because I was trying to think about all the possible things that could go wrong with this.
Sure.
Because we're dealing with 13-year-old kids here, Matt. I don't trust 13-year-old kids. I don't know how many times I need to explain this. I don't trust 13-year-old kids, especially with stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
And going forward, Harry kind of proved me right here.
I suppose.
In a way. Right? I mean, it worked out for the best, but still, time travel.
Yeah. But what we saw here, I found kind of interesting, because it's not necessarily what I would have expected from the personalities we've come to know so far.
Mm-hmm.
But Hermione, after Dumbledore tells her, 3 turns should do, she immediately goes ahead and follows orders.
Right.
And like Dumbledore told her what to do, I'm going to do it, and then we'll go from there. But they go back in time, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I did it. Now what? I'm like, wait, you didn't have this all planned out? Like, that was the first thing that jumped into my mind. It's like, why doesn't Hermione have this all planned out? Like, you should have a plan. That's what you do. But then I guess we get to see Harry has always kind of been better at making putting plans together on the fly.
Sure.
That's something like just putting all those last pieces together. Like he figured out how to get through the all the traps down, like past Fluffy in the first book.
Right.
he understood all those things. He understood what's Tom Riddle in the diary and that sort of thing. Like he pieced all those things together.
Sure.
And so now when we get into the past, and it's like, okay, what do we need to do now?
Mm-hmm.
He starts thinking, and we see it a couple times. Like he still didn't have the entire plan worked out, but he works out like the first half of it. It's like, okay, this is what needs to happen. This is what we're gonna do.
Well,
and then
because I think like Hermione's brain doesn't work the same way Harry's does, and like Harry acts emotionally based on his emotions. That's how he acts and goes forth with. Like he has feelings, right? And he just goes with his gut feeling.
Yeah, he's very instinctive, I would say.
And Hermione isn't. Like she's like by the book, step by step process, and once anything kind of alters that step by step process, the critical thinking part of her just kind of shuts down because she's like, I don't know what to do now because it's not happening the way it's supposed to happen, type of thing.
Sure.
So, I don't know. Like, she got him there, but then, at the same time, like, she was using it all year, but she was also using it in the most unimportant way you could possibly ever use time travel, and that's just to go to more classes at school.
Yeah, and that's something she had worked out. Like, she knew where she needed to be and when she needed to be there.
Yeah.
And what she was doing once she went back in time. Like, it was all laid out, like, this is what I need to do.
Right.
But now it's like, okay, Dumbledore told me to go back here, but I don't know why, I don't know. And Harry just was completely lost up until Hermione finally explained it. Like he had no clue what Dumbledore was talking about.
No.
He was completely lost. But
nobody did reading it through the first time. You're just like, what is happening?
Yeah. You put the two of their minds together and it all works out.
Yeah. And like, all of her time travel, throughout the school year, she wasn't trying to affect anybody else's life in any way whatsoever. Like, it was a complete solitary thing that she was doing. So, like, every time she was using it, it was without the intention to interact with anybody, but to just benefit herself and her own gain of knowledge, where this time it's like, no, we have to save lives. We have to make a difference. We have to change the future of very important things happening. And that probably freaked her out a bit, because if something had gone wrong, like the whole thing, like time would have just crumbled in on itself.
Yeah. I mean, what probably threw her off more than anything, like she knows that you must not be seen, but when Dumbledore also told them, if all goes well, you'll be able to save more than one innocent life tonight.
Right.
Like, that puts an extra amount of weight on that, every decision you make from then on.
But Harry has no fear. He's just like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go for it. So, it makes sense to me. Kind of sad Ron didn't get to time travel with him, because I feel like he would have added that special little third element to the whole thing, but,
Yeah. But do you notice how often Ron is left out of these things?
Yeah, I mean, probably for the best.
Unfortunately, yeah. It kind of sucks for him, but at the same time, granted, like in the first one, he got him through the chess match, but then he was knocked out.
Yeah.
So he woke up in the hospital and it's like, oh, what happened? And same thing's gonna happen here. It's like he's stuck in the hospital. They go back and it's like, oh, what happened?
Yeah. I also feel like this was kind of important for Harry and Hermione to do this together, because they've kind of drifted apart the entire book as friends. Because she's been, doing her own thing. And Ron and Harry's friendship grew stronger with her pulling away from the trio for her studies and schoolwork and such. So, like, Harry wasn't as compassionate towards Hermione that we've seen in the first two books. He didn't feel the impulse to really make sure she was safe and okay and everything, like he did, especially in the previous book, when she was petrified. Like this one, it was their dynamic was off because of everything going on. So I kind of enjoyed them being together as a duo and working through things because I hope it will go a long ways in their friendship being stronger than ever because of it. You know, like I feel like if Ron was there, Ron and Harry would have teamed up again, and Hermione would have been the third wheel, like she was most of the book.
Yeah, makes sense. Totally.
So, it was important. It was good for him. Okay, so Time Turner.
Yes,
This is the thing.
it is.
This is the thing I got for Christmas, unbeknownst to me.
You did. You had no idea what it was, but I saw it, and I'm like, oh, he's going to enjoy that when the time comes.
And that makes me more mad about like my whole Muggle theory thing and everything like that. It's like I've held this thing
That's
in my
true.
hand.
If you could have worked that, the biggest giveaway with the Time Turner is it has a little hourglass.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. I'm so mad at myself. And if I knew Latin, Matt, I probably could have read the thing on all the spinning little discs on it. Because I'm pretty sure it's Latin. It's not a language that I'm familiar with at all. But I'm just like, it was right there. It was right there for me the whole time. Yeah. And maybe like that's like subconsciously a mention of something like that is what I was looking for when I was reading previous chapters. You know? Without like me actually knowing that's what I was looking for. But like if I'd come across something of like, oh, Hermione has this necklace with an hourglass on it, I would be like, "Ha! I know what that is. Okay, now we're making progress here." But no, nothing.
So you said the Time Turner you have is in Latin?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, it's like I said, it's in a language I'm not familiar with because the words I don't remember being able to read.
It's interesting. I just pulled up a picture of one, and it's definitely in English.
Maybe it's just words I am not familiar with, or is it like a spell or something?
No. Apparently, the inscription on the Time Turner reads, "I mark the hours, every one, nor have I yet outrun the sun. My use and value unto you are gauged by what you have to do."
I definitely don't remember that, but there's a good chance. Maybe I just didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
I lost it, Matt. I need to find it. Somebody is running around this house with a Time Turner, possibly going back and causing mischief, which frightens me. So I need to recover that as soon as possible before it falls in the wrong hands.
Speaking of your Christmas presents, though, there's one other item in there that I know you have questions about that I feel comfortable mentioning now.
Okay.
This was the one someone had mentioned in email once, and I answered them on the show and didn't tell you what I was talking about. But the wand that you got?
Yes.
You still don't know whose that is?
Nope.
Okay.
Is that Lupin's?
Nope.
Oh. Sirius Black's?
There you go.
Is it really?
It is.
Huh. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's a good wand. I believe I actually have that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that makes me feel really cool about that now.
Yeah, Sirius, I believe, was the first wand I bought.
I'm just glad you're not going to make me wait 7 books to find out who it is.
Yep. I figured after the first one, when you finally figure out who he is, like that makes sense.
Sure. I don't think it's the last time we see him either, but nice to know. He has a cool wand. It's a really cool wand with all the inscriptions and everything on it.
That's exactly why it was my first wand.
What?
I like the looks of it.
Is there meaning behind the inscriptions that are on it? All the characters and stuff?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
But, of course, we can look that up, too.
Yeah.
So.
Later. Another time. Okay. So, Time Turner.
Yes.
They're going to use this thing. They're going to go back in time 3 hours. Which, again, for the last 8 weeks, Matt.
Yeah.
It feels like you've been pointing out how all this is happening with just, 1 hour at a time. Like, it's all in the same night. I'm like, yeah, I understand, Matt. It's all in the same... Yes, Matt, I understand. We're in the same night. Everything is happening From the moment finals got over to the moment, everything went down. This is all the same night. Like,
Yes.
You pounded that into my head repeatedly.
Yeah.
I was like, I get it, Matt. Like, these last chapters are, like, all drawn out over one night. I understand. Well, now I understand why you kept saying that. It's because we're going to go back and revisit them all over again.
It's true.
Yeah. But we're going to do so in order to save Buckbeak
Yep.
and Sirius Black.
Yep.
So this kind of made me sad. I started to well up a little bit because that was the first time I had to acknowledge the fact that Buckbeak was dead. And I was like, I'm thinking about a hippogriff's head just laying on the ground. Like, that's kind of disturbing, and I don't like that thought.
Well, okay. This is the question, though. Did that actually ever happen?
I knew you would do this to me this episode, Matt. I knew you would do this. I don't know anymore. I don't know what's happened. The entire book could not have. Maybe that happened a different way. Time travel has completely messed up my head.
There are two major events in my mind that kind of answer the question. One is Buckbeak.
Yeah.
And the second is at the lake.
Okay.
So when we go through it the first time, Harry's laying on the ground.
Right.
And he sees across the lake the Patronus.
Right.
That happened the first time. They didn't change anything. They didn't change anything. That happened the first time. But in order for that to happen, they had to go back. It's confusing, I know. I understand that if you have trouble wrapping your head around it.
Yeah.
But I am still of the belief that what you saw in these last two chapters, the things they quote unquote changed, they didn't actually change. They happened the first time too. We just didn't see them.
So they only happened because they went back in time.
Yes. If for some reason they had decided not to go back, then I don't think those things would have happened.
Harry would be dead.
Essentially, yeah.
He would have got gobbled up by a Dementor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Buckbeak would be dead. His poor head would be laying in a pumpkin patch.
So that brings my question.
Yeah.
Is Dumbledore. Because this all hinged on Dumbledore telling them to go back.
I know. And then I have some questions about Dumbledore. I have some serious questions about this dude.
Yes.
Okay, so we're getting to the Buckbeak execution, right?
Sure.
And Harry's trying to untie Buckbeak, and he's having troubles. He's a hippogriff, right? He's stubborn. He's not going to do... It's a process. And as they're walking out of Hagrid's hut to go kill this hippogriff, Dumbledore reminds McNair that he needs to sign the execution forms as well.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, did that happen the first time around? I don't remember if it did or not. But it's happening this time. Is Dumbledore intentionally stalling because he knows Harry was going to have trouble untying and freeing Buckbeak, so he had to stall so that they wouldn't come out and it would give Harry and Buckbeak time to get away? And then at that point, if Dumbledore is intentionally doing this, then he already knows what happened or is going to happen or will happen, and how is he time traveling? And I just...
So
it's too much for my head to handle, Matt. It's too much.
The best I can come up with, this is how it works in my head.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is what was intended or not, but this is how it always plays out in my head. Dumbledore knows more than we know. He can see more than we can see. We've always kind of questioned Dumbledore and the invisibility cloak and that type of thing. Because when Harry was sneaking into the mirror and like he tells him like he has ways of becoming invisible, or I don't remember the exact phrase he used, but he has ways of not being seen, and like that always made me wonder. It's like, well, then can you see other people that are invisible or sense them or do something? So in my head, Dumbledore probably saw the trio like when they were leaving Hagrid's hut, and then in my mind, like he had when they were in Hagrid's hut, he had a shot out the window, and he could see Buckbeak and Harry and Hermione, and so he saw all these things happening.
Yeah.
And so he put two and two together, and it's like, okay, somehow I need to get these kids back here so they can do this thing, because I just saw them run off the other way, but they need to finish off this job too.
Right.
And so when they got to the point in the future when Dumbledore met up with Harry and Hermione again, it's like, all right, 3 turns. So like in my mind, I don't want to call him omniscient, but he has a greater sense of and knowledge. He knows more than everybody else somehow.
And at the same time, I don't think he does in other parts. Like, or he does.
I honestly think he does. Like I've said it before, I think Dumbledore knows everything that goes on in his castle.
Yeah, but now I'm also starting to think like he knows everything that's going to happen also, and that's kind of frightening.
You see, and that's why I like to explain it away in my head as he basically saw both groups of kids there and realized that, okay, that's not normal, and so something must be going on. It involves Hermione. It probably involves time travel. That's like he pieces all that together and just plays it off how he needs to play it off to make it all happen. Like, I don't think he necessarily knew when he went down to Hagrid's hut that he was going to see all these things, but I think he pieced it all together, kind of like Harry does.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I appreciate the idea because it's an easy thing to just grasp and understand, but he's an onion, man. There are so many layers to this cat that I just am having a hard time peeling back and discovering. So, but that's gonna make like the next 4 books amazing, is because I feel like we're just now starting to scratch the surface of Dumbledore and what he's capable of doing.
Absolutely.
And that's frightening and exciting at the same time.
Yep.
Okay. Question.
Yes.
If you kill your past or future self, as Professor McGonagall has warned of,
it
happening before, is that murder or suicide?
Oh, I mean, there's obviously not going to be anybody to charge with the murder.
Is there? I don't know how this works. I don't know how time travel works, Matt.
Well, I mean, like, if you kill your past, I mean, okay, maybe it matters if it's past or future, but...
See?
Okay, yeah.
Do you collapse also if you kill your past or future self? Like, do you just, like, die on the spot?
Well, I think if you kill your past self, definitely. I think you just kind of cease to exist.
What about your future self?
If you would kill your future self...
I mean, you'd be living up until that point, right?
Yeah.
Theoretically. Again, time travel, man, messes with my head.
Because then when you get up to that point again, like, you would see your past self come and kill you.
Yeah. And what kind of time paradox does that create?
Unless you remember it and prevent it.
Ooh, boy.
Wait a minute.
Holy cow.
Yeah, we don't go there. That's why you just avoid it.
I can't stop thinking about it.
That's why you don't do it.
I know.
You must not be seen.
Yeah. Okay. So the Patronus that Harry saw.
Yep.
J.K. used the word galloping. I thought it was an interesting choice for a word.
Mm-hmm.
Very deliberate, which we'd come to find out. But
Absolutely.
just a little nugget of a hint of what's to come with that specific word used, because not a lot of animals out there gallop, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't use that too often. Like,
Yeah.
to be perfectly honest, I would probably only use it with one animal and not this one, actually.
Well, that's when they started talking about the horse later on.
Yeah.
Which, can I tell you how upset I was that it was possibly a horse? I'm like, of all the animals James Potter could be turning into, it was a horse? Really?
Did you really assume James Potter, though, right away?
I mean, later on, when it was, like, revealed to be, like, the stag and everything like that. So, I mean, now I'm using James Potter as, you know, the fill-in, but, like, when it was just, like, Harry saw the Patronus and it was galloping, and then, like, it was, like, a horse, but not quite a horse. And I'm like, well, why the heck would a Patronus be a horse? Like, that is lame. Like, of all the potential awesome animals in this world, a horse? Like, that's not intimidating at all, right?
Well, you'll see. This isn't the last we see of the Patronus.
I understand that, but like I was going back to like how James and Sirius would turn into again. Like I started making like all these connections because it was happening so fast.
Yes.
But like how they would protect Lupin when he would change into a werewolf by turning into other animals that would like fend off anything. And I was like, okay, well, Sirius was this big old scary dog, and then a horse, like.
Well, okay. Before we go too far here,
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we're all over the place, man.
They've kind of overlapped now that we know everything, but there are two different things we're talking about here. One is the Patronus, and one is the Animagus.
I know.
And so James Potter, I don't know if we know if he could even produce a Patronus.
Right.
But his Patronus was probably not the stag, if I had to guess.
Probably
That's what
not.
he
But,
turned into.
but at this point, when we're getting the revelation that the Patronus was a stag, and that made sense because James Potter's nickname was Prongs, and we're getting this whole revelation, we're still under the assumption. No, I guess we're not at this point. Because at first Harry thought he saw his dad. And I'm like,
when Harry thought it was his dad.
Yeah.
And I can see where you're coming from.
See, my head is starting to feel like probably like every listener out there where you've read through the series that the fine details just get kind of mushy in how things happen because you know the entire story at this point. Sure. And you know like all the main points, and picking out like when a specific thing happened before or after something else is kind of tough.
Yes.
And that's how I feel like now completing this book is like the order, the sequence of events is a little blurry, even though I just read them today. There was just so much that happened that it's just like this one big ball of like, I know the end result. So now I'm like fitting all these puzzle pieces together now.
And it doesn't help that in the end of this book, we are replaying this sequence twice from two different points of view.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I'm concerned that like maybe this whole thing is just a replay of something else. Like the whole time travel thing is going to... Okay, I'll say this now. I know Hermione got rid of the time turner, right? She gave it back to McGonagall. She's just like, nope, it's too much power.
Yep.
I don't want that kind of responsibility. I'm not Spider-Man. The fact that I now know that time travel exists and that there is a specific device in this castle that allows somebody to time travel, I am going into the next 4 books skeptical about everything.
Okay. Well, I will help you a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find it, but so you mentioned that, yeah, she gave it back to McGonagall.
Yeah.
And we also know that McGonagall said she had to like write the ministry many letters.
Yeah.
In order to even get her hands on it, and much less allow a student to use it.
Sure.
So I think it's safe to assume that it is not just going to be laying around the castle.
Nope. Nothing
it is
safe in this world, Matt.
Safely back at the ministry.
No. There's these special maps and invisibility cloaks, and I don't know if I trust the ministry all that well, to be honest with you, because they're not my favorite people right now.
Sure.
There's just I'm just saying, time travel exists now, and therefore I don't know how much I could trust about anything because of the possibility of time travel. Just the possibility. Just the fact that it exists. I don't know what other devices possibly could time travel. Or who
Fair enough.
Is that the only device in existence? Or is that just one of a handful of devices? You know? Like, how many time turners are there in this world? We don't know. I don't know who else has one. Who else is capable of getting one? There's some bad dudes that work for the ministry, Matt, that I am not trusting to not get their hands on that.
Fair enough.
So, I'm just throwing that out there, that I'm not going to bring it up every episode that we read. That I'm like, oh, well, that probably didn't happen because of time travel. But it's going to be in my head. And when I start getting to points when I'm trying to figure something out and it's not clicking, I might just go back to time travel as like the fallback scapegoat.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
That works.
Okay. So Harry thinks he sees his dad. He is insisting. Okay. The whole time, like, him and Hermione and Buckbeak are waiting. Like, that was probably, like, the most agonizing time for a couple of 13-year-olds in a slightly agitated hippogriff. But, like, Harry kept, like, wanting to, like, go do something, right? Like, he's like, oh, I could go get the invisibility cloak, and Snape will never make it down there, and I could go catch Scabbers, and, like, he has, like, all these crazy ideas about how he's going to go change things, and Hermione keeps him under control, for the most part.
Yep.
But then he's just like, just let me do this. I just need to go to the lake, right? And she's like, oh, God, what are you going to do? Like, she's like, just stay here. He's like, no, let me just going to go to the lake real quick. I was just yelling, Harry, do not be a dumb 13-year-old boy right now. Please stop being a dumb 13-year-old boy. Just stay there, right? Just stay there.
Yeah.
Granted, it's a good thing that he didn't just stay there.
Very true.
But, it was written with such precision of, like, the buildup being he was going to go do something stupid.
Yep.
Against everything that Hermione's telling him, and I knew it was going to happen, and I was just so mad that he wasn't just sit down, just relax, just hang out for a couple hours.
But then we see, once again, Harry being Harry, and following his instinct, his gut feeling, and he figured out that piece of the puzzle again. And it's like, wait a minute, I know this happened, I saw it.
Yeah,
this is what needs to happen, and there's no one else here. So wait, if I'm here, then right.
So he didn't see his father because that wrinkle of the story, I would have just lost it, because then I'm like, okay, now we're not having dead people. Dead people are not dead. Time travel. How far did they time travel? Like,
you have already tried to bring up James Potter before.
I know. Well,
I believe you tried to place him as Crookshanks once.
That theory's still on the table, Matt, until it's proven otherwise.
All right.
So, so it's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's just like, Okay, makes sense that it's Harry. Harry saw himself. Harry had to use a Patronus. Quite an amazing Patronus, if I must say so myself.
Yeah.
I think Hermione even commented about how like advanced of a technique it was, that it came out so beautifully and magnificent and did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, it's not only, it's hard enough for someone to cast a Patronus,
Mm-hmm.
much less a fully formed Patronus.
Right.
Do they actually mention the term they used? Did you run across that?
Maybe. I remember.
Okay. I don't know if they actually use it in this book. They talk about it later.
Okay.
About the kind of, I guess, almost different types of Patronus.
Sure. I mean, this one was capable of herding up and chasing away hundreds of Dementors.
Yeah. It is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
But what we find out later, I think, when... Oh, yeah. That, like, Lupin... When Lupin's talking to him about it.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it's not the first time he's seen it.
Right.
He tells him that, that's what you did at the Quidditch match.
Right.
I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like in my head, back in the Quidditch match, at least the first time I read this through, it was that's what he produced at the Quidditch match was maybe just, that wispy stuff, except maybe a little more forceful. It had some force behind it.
Sure.
Like I think you even asked me about that when we were talking about that. It's like, had some force, it knocked them back, that kind of thing.
Right.
But now we know that he produced essentially prongs.
Yeah.
At the Quidditch match.
Right.
And that's why Lupin complimented him back then. And he brought it up again now, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that would knock them over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I need more information about Patronuses. Patronus.
Yeah, I want to go like Patroni.
Okay.
I don't know if there is a technical.
I'm sure Alex will write in and let us know what the plural of Patronus is. But like you keep saying we're gonna find more about Patronus as we move on into our readings, and I'm excited for that. But like, why is Harry's Patronus like essentially the essence of his dad? Like, if his dad was his nickname was Prongs because he was able to turn into this stag. Why does that mean Harry's Patronus is that? Is family lineage always tied to your Patronus? Is it there's a lot of questions that need answered as far as like how this works out, and I know you're not going to give me any answers, but
we'll talk about it a little bit later. In some of the emails and such, people did bring that up a little bit.
Okay.
And I mean, I think it's safe to say that no, it's not always tied to family necessarily. Harry's case is rather odd,
special,
actually. Yeah. Special, yeah. But the form that a Patronus takes is definitely something. Well, I was going to use the word magical, but of course it's magical. But I think
meaningful.
You know what
to
I
the
mean
person
there.
That has it.
Yeah,
it's not just a random animal.
Yeah, that's probably the best way of putting it for now.
Okay.
And when we revisit them, I think you'll be able to see more why. But
okay.
Yeah.
Can I take the Patronus quiz yet?
You probably could. Yeah.
I don't know if that is a full green light or is that just a yellow light, Matt?
I was mostly just waiting until you knew what they were.
Okay.
And what Harry's was.
Okay, because that's a big thing.
Like the fact that it turns into an animal.
Sure.
Like that was kind of a big thing. That's like we didn't really see that until now.
Right. Okay.
So Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, when everybody was sharing the Patronus quizzes, like, I saw animals, and I was
Yep.
like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Like, that's, I don't understand. So, okay, fair enough. Flying down a hippogriff sounds pretty fun. I'm all for that.
Unless you're Hermione.
Well, yeah, but again, she's not the fun one of the bunch, you know.
Sure.
What a chapter, Matt! Just an amazing chapter.
Yeah.
So much, like, time travel is introduced and used successfully, all within one chapter.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like we've read 2 chapters here, and I kind of keep lumping them together, but
That was
the
all
entire
one.
time travel incident is in one chapter.
Yeah. The final chapter is just the fallout.
Yeah, which I mean, we have a lot to cover, but
Definitely.
a couple things in this chapter. One, when they fly up to Sirius
Mm-hmm.
in the tower,
Yeah.
and they tap on the glass.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but castles in my mind do not have glass on the windows.
Yes, because only I remember Harry like opening a window.
Yeah, like I think they've done it before, like, but especially for me, like the windows way, like it feels like he's way up in the top of the tower,
Right.
like they're keeping him up there, and like I just don't picture windows up there.
No, I totally see what you're saying, but the fact that like there's been mention of like opening the window,
Yeah.
and we've seen that in the film of like, you know, like the glass pane
Yep.
open up, like.
Yep.
Also, he was in Flitwick's office, so wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
think so.
Okay. So I knew it wasn't like a dungeon holding cell or anything like that. So
Well, yeah, the dungeons just aren't going to have windows.
exactly. Or
But-
like, I mean, sometimes they'd have like a holding cell, like at the top of the castle, like, you know, locked up and open air,
Sure.
freeze to death.
Well, yeah, that's where they keep the princesses.
Right. And the dragons to protect them.
Yes.
Oh god, we need to talk about dragons soon, Matt.
Yeah, I guess we haven't had a dragon mentioned in a while.
We're about to.
Yeah. Well, in any case, the other thing when we meet Sirius again, he provides the best. Like last time we were ragging on him
Mhm.
for not knowing how to be a parent or guardian.
Right.
Like he's never done this. He's kind of clueless. He doesn't really know what's going on. Like
Sure.
he's kind of nervous about it or whatever. But he gives Harry the best line he could ever deliver. And you are truly your father's son.
Yep.
That's the line that always hits me.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what better person to say that and to like to acknowledge that than his best friend?
Yeah, I mean, especially in this circumstance where it's not like, oh, he just got in trouble again. Yeah, you're your father's son.
Yeah.
It's no, you're coming back. You're saving lives. You're doing this all at your own risk,
Right.
and you are truly your father's son.
Yep. Yeah. Emotional. And that's only the beginning of the emotions, Matt.
Yep.
It's only the start of it. Because from there we go to chapter 22.
Chapter 22. I will post again.
I had a question
Yes.
why it was called again.
Yeah.
And then I guess the previous chapter was named Owl Post.
Chapter 1, actually.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was like, that's a weird chapter name. You know? Like it's just not fitting with like how things are normally done.
Yeah.
So going into this chapter, Matt, my head was swirling with all the time travel and the rescues and everything that's going on with Dumbledore and the whole thing that just played out that we just saw in one chapter, right?
Yep.
We found out Hermione's secret and all of this great stuff. Before a single word of chapter 22 was read, I wrote in my notes one final question going into this chapter.
Okay.
Who sent the firebolt? Because I Did not forget about that. I was circling back so many times in my head. Like, that was such an important thing, middle of this book. And granted, now in the grand scheme of things, it's the most insignificant thing you could possibly think about. Like, why are we thinking about Quidditch and a broomstick and, you know, all of that good stuff. But in the middle of that book, that was such a big thing that happened that has been quickly forgotten about.
Yep.
So I didn't forget, Matt. And I knew going into this chapter, that was the one big thing that hadn't been revealed or answered. And I was going to riot if it was just completely forgotten about.
It was not forgotten about.
It was not, but I was...
I know.
I was upset, Matt, because there was a chance that it was either going to wait for a future book or it was just going to be one of those little things that was just forgotten about. And JK is too good to just forget about that altogether.
Yep.
But I was worried. Because I was like, how other people, you know, like how many other people reading this book the first time were worried about the firebolt at the last chapter of the book, you know? Am I the only crazy one thinking about this still? Probably is the answer to that. Okay, where do you want to start with this?
So, once again, I'm back at Dumbledore.
Okay.
He always has, at least seems to have, such a great command of anything and everything that's going around him.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me a little bit of Lupin. Like I always said, Lupin was so smooth with his speech and how he brings up different topics and how he teaches people different things. And Dumbledore is kind of that same way, except he's a little more. He switches up the extremes. Like he is forceful sometimes when he needs to be.
Right.
When he needs to interject when things need to happen now. That I don't necessarily see Lupin doing as much. But then other times he's just very calm. When everybody else is bouncing off the walls, it's like, we need to do this, we need to do that. And like, no, just hold on. Mm-hmm. I got this. We're going to do this my way, the practical way, the pragmatic way.
Right.
We are going to take care of this. I know what needs to happen. Mm-hmm. You need to go over here. I need to go over there. And we're going to work through this.
Yeah.
And he just always seems to be in command.
Right.
Which, is perfect for a headmaster.
Mm-hmm.
He's essentially just doing his job, which is great.
Yep.
But it just amazes me every time I see it. I'm like, I wish I could lead like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Quite a quality. Schmucks like me, muggles like me, put it into question on a far too regular basis, but it always works out in the end for Dumbledore.
Yeah.
What he has cooking. I appreciate the fact that Snape always assumes everything is Harry Potter's fault.
He's back at it again.
Granted,
it's always Potter.
Granted, most of the time he's right, but he just doesn't know how he's right or why he's right about it.
Exactly. Like he is not quite so good about putting the pieces together. He's good about getting from point A to point B. Like he can jump from point A to point B, but he has no idea how he got there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He like goes to Z, right? He's like A to Z. Like, I got this. Like just one straight line. You're like, you missed a whole bunch of letters there in between there. But
yeah.
Like it's infuriating that he's just like, it's Harry Potter. It has to be Harry Potter. It's always Harry Potter. Harry Potter's a troublemaker. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, yeah, he kind of is. But you don't know that. You're just assuming that because you don't like his dad, you know? Mm-hmm. Or does he know more than, like, he's leaning on and he just doesn't know how to, like, quantify it and then explain himself? I don't know. But he just sounds like a whack job, and Dumbledore is just chuckling because he's like, yeah, he's totally Harry Potter. But, like, he can't admit that because he's letting Snape go on like a maniac.
And that's the thing. It's like, if you explain, like, point A and point Z to anyone else, they think Snape is crazy.
Right.
Dumbledore, he probably thinks, no, there probably is a chance. He probably has a couple of those points in between. It's like, yeah, okay. Especially with the time travel thing. Like, he knows that happened. So it's like, yeah, you're right, but yeah, I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
But I go back to so like Dumbledore is kind of on Harry's side all the time as well. But I forgot in the last chapter when Snape was talking to the minister about everything, and Snape like wanted to blame Harry for all these other things he's been doing throughout the year.
Yeah.
And the minister, once again, like he did at the very beginning of the book, like kind of just let Harry slide by. It's like, yeah, but when it's Harry Potter, we kind of have to bend the rules a little bit. And it's like, yeah, the boy has undoubtedly been foolish, but I honestly think the minister might just be Harry Potter's biggest fan.
Possibly. And I think that is making Snape even more crazy.
Yeah.
Because he can't do anything about it.
He might not be as aggressive about it as like we saw like Colin Creevey
right
in the last book, but he is willing to make so many exceptions.
Yeah.
For Harry.
He's the great Harry Potter.
Yeah. Whereas Dumbledore, he makes exceptions, but he has a reason for it.
Right.
The minister is making exceptions just because he's Harry Potter.
Sure.
Which, yeah, like you said, drives Snape up a wall.
Yeah. And I think at the end of this book, like, I think Snape is getting to his, like, mental breaking point where he's just like, there's nothing that I could do or say at this point that anybody is going to believe me at all. And
well, yeah. When half the page is in all capital letters, I'm like,
right.
Okay, Snape, settle down. Settle down, buddy.
And, like, he's just at the point where he's just like, I just have to stop picking on this. Like, he even, like, brought up the fact that, like, I don't treat him any differently. I treat him as if he was any other student. It's like, okay, really? Nobody actually believes that you treat him like every other student. Like, let's be real here. But,
yeah,
like, at this point, he's done and proven everything he possibly can about everything, and nothing. Like, he's just gonna, like, just quit just based on, like, there's nothing else I could do here. I'm done.
Yep.
If he doesn't get Defense of the Dark Arts job come next book, that guy is beelining straight for the psychiatric ward, because he's gonna have some issues, I tell you what.
Sure.
There was a mention of the Dementors. I think it was Fudge, I think it was Fudge, when he was talking to Dumbledore about, like, them taking care of the Dementors now that everything's wrapped up.
Yep.
And he mentioned that they were out of control.
Yeah.
And I had to stop and think, were they ever really in control? Like, were they ever really controlled? Like, I know they were brought in by the Ministry, and, like, they work for the prison, Azkaban prison and all that stuff, but, like, they're a different sort of being than anything else, and I just don't see them being controlled, or, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
The term out of control is just like, well, yeah, they're Dementors. Of course they're out of control. They eat people.
Yeah, but so we'll I'm your favorite line by now, I'm sure, but we'll learn more about this in the future. But I think you can start to piece this together like you already did. The Dementors are at Azkaban. Mm-hmm. At least these Dementors are.
Yeah.
They brought them from Azkaban, the prison, which is run by the Ministry. The Ministry is in control of Azkaban.
Right.
So they are therefore in control of these Dementors. They are employed by the Ministry.
Sure.
So the Ministry is the one that told them to come over to Hogwarts, and then between the Ministry and Dumbledore, they made the agreement that they could not come into the castle. They just had to stay on the perimeter.
Yeah.
Like, so they had their orders, and what they're explaining now is that they essentially attacked students.
Yeah.
Like, yes, they were going after Sirius Black, but they attacked the students, which they were not supposed to do.
Yeah. I understand that. I'm just having a hard time thinking about how, like, is there one head Dementor that, you know, like, they go up to him like, okay, you and your crew need to come with me to Hogwarts, or, like, do they get owl posts? Like, is there like owls delivering letters to the Dementors to let them know where to go? And like what is like the actual form of control other than like they have these orders, this blanket statement of like they're not supposed to go in Hogwarts? Like, how is that communicated to these guys? Because I don't think that they fall into the same guidelines as everything else in this world.
Yep, I don't see Dementors receiving owl post. I don't see them reading too much. Every time we've seen it a couple times in this book already, where someone says, "I am going to go talk to the Dementors," or "I had a talk with the Dementors."
Yeah, right.
We've seen that a couple of times, and I think that's really the only way they have to communicate with them is like they have to physically go to them and talk to them.
Sure.
And whether or not they have some kind of hierarchy within the Dementor ranks,
or is it like a hive mind? Like,
yeah, like if there is a centurion that's in charge, or if they,
gather up all 300 Dementors and
like,
megaphone.
You almost think that there is some kind of hive mind going on there, because I'm sure once one of them finds something to feed on, they're all just going to kind of swarm it, and that I think that's kind of what we saw.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest reason we saw that was because it was like, oh, we found Sirius, he's over here, and then they all swarmed, and at that point they didn't care, because I think it's also been mentioned in this book too, like they're kind of starving at this point, just sitting here around Hogwarts.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be feeding on this guy. Oh, there's more people here, and we're really hungry, and there's lots of us.
Sure.
So that's where the out of control kind of is building up the entire year.
Right. And
unless they caught Sirius all by himself, there was going to be a problem if there's anybody else in the area. Like anybody who couldn't produce a Patronus like Harry could would be in dire trouble at that point.
And if they're all starving, we saw one Dementor take off his hood, right, as it was about to dine on little Harry Potter.
Yep.
If they have like the hive mind going on, if one feeds, do they all feel satisfied with like the feeding of one? Because they're not like, are they individually feeding, or can they collectively just kind of?
No, I think it's individual. As much as I want there to be some kind of hive mind mentality, like I don't think there is actually. I think that they just kind of all. I mean,
we need a Dementor spin-off story here, Matt.
Yeah, that's the best explanation we can give for like how they act, how they react. But I think it's just, I mean, it's described as hundreds of them here, or at least 100, and we don't know exactly how big the Hogwarts grounds are, but still, if you spread 100 of them around the grounds, like I think there's still going to be pretty close together.
Yeah.
Like I always picture like a wall of Dementors surrounding this entire thing. Like they're standing shoulder to shoulder around the grounds. And so once one of them starts swooping in, like it just like reverse dominoes, kind of like they all follow that one in towards wherever they're going.
I just want to know more.
Yeah.
Okay. The next two things I want to be quick about, because they're definitely not major talking points. However, that's a big however, Matt.
Yep.
You should know, and everybody out there listening should know, that these were possibly my two favorite parts of the entire reading for this week.
I bet you I can name them too.
One, the mention and the thought and the idea of dragons guarding Hogwarts.
Yes.
Now that the Dementors are moving along.
Yep.
Yes, please.
I mean, Dumbledore thinks Hagrid immediately, and that's, I'm sure, where you would go with it too.
God. Makes me so excited. And that immediately started making me think about that dragon that's on top of the bank at Universal Studios in Orlando. And I'm like, well, what's that? Is that dragon guarding the bank? Is that dragon attacking the bank? I have some crazy far off distant theories revolving that whole dragon scenario now.
Yep.
Yeah. Which I'm sure won't be answered for a long, long time.
Nope.
But, like, just the idea of, like, dragons guarding something now, I'm just like, oh, this opens up a lot of possibilities of things.
It's true.
2, possibly the most important of them all. We had a giant squid sighting.
We did.
And he's just hanging out, waving his tentacles. I love that giant squid more than I could possibly explain, Matt.
He keeps popping up.
And he's not going to be in the movie, and that makes me so upset, but I am over it. I understand that I will never see this giant squid on film in this series because it's the most irrelevant thing you could possibly think of, but I love every single one of the little references.
Yep.
Anytime the lake is referenced, I'm just like, that's squid somewhere around there.
It's true.
Doing squid things. Okay. Now that that's out of the way.
Yes.
I mean, we could talk about the squid all night if you want to.
Oh, we can start another show for that.
Yeah. Don't do that, Matt. That's not good. Okay. It's time to say goodbye to yet another Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher.
You called it.
Professor Lupin. I'm convinced this is going to be a thing all series, Matt. This is a rotating chair of characters.
So okay. Do you keep saying that Snape needs to get this job?
Yeah.
If Snape gets the job, is he going to be able to hold it? Or do you think then he's going to be gone?
It's an interesting question. Maybe that would be his exit from the series.
Do you think he exits the series?
I mean, it's possible. I think it's possible for everybody to exit the series.
Except Harry, I think. I think that's safe to say.
I don't know how this thing ends.
All 7 books are titled Harry Potter and the...
That doesn't mean something horrible doesn't happen at the end of it.
Okay.
And at that point, he'd be exiting the series.
Okay. I guess if they can exit partway through, then...
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I think Harry's around for all 7 books, but in the end, is he? I don't know. I can't say with confidence that any character is going to last all the way through.
Sure.
I mean, I would like to say Dumbledore, but I don't think that's a given. Hagrid, I don't know.
He's the most powerful wizard out there.
Yeah, but now we have time travel, Matt. Crazier things have happened.
I'm not sure how that's connected, but okay.
What if somebody went back in time and prevented him from ever gaining the headmaster role at Hogwarts, and the whole thing was just a sham?
Then I don't think we would be seeing any of what we're seeing right now.
Again, I don't know how soon or in the past or the future that happens or doesn't happen, Matt. Okay. Time travel is tricky.
It is.
So, yes, if Snape were to accept the role of Defense Against the Dark Arts, which probably isn't going to be this book because I think that's going to continue on with a new character because he hasn't hit his breaking point yet. Even though I would like to see him for his mental health's sake, I think it's going to drive him further into insanity, not getting this job once again. If he ever is to get this job, it is quite possibly going to be the last job that he ever has at Hogwarts. Because that's how this rolls.
All right.
So, I don't think it's just like a rotating chair of like professors. I think it's this job specifically. Defense Against the Dark Arts. So if he were to leave potions, whoever took over for potions would be just golden. It'd be fine. No problem. So.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to say goodbye to Lupin. Like, this isn't a fun thing here. This was emotionally hard.
I mean, that's exactly how Harry's taken it. He doesn't want to see him go.
The other two were different, you know. There were characters you weren't supposed to like, and
yeah,
Lupin wasn't that. Lupin was that teacher that we've all had that made you think differently about yourself and think differently about the world around you.
Yep. Like he was teaching them outside of class.
Yeah. A special kind of teacher that hopefully everybody has at least one of in their life, and seeing him leave, not because he died or he couldn't turn back from being a werewolf or something other horrible thing happened to him, but like choosing to leave for the sake of like the other students and like putting everybody else first is such the Lupin thing to do, but it makes it so incredibly hard to just accept as a reader. Of just like, I'm sure the parents would be okay. Like, we could get past this. We could be fine. It's a hard thing to just sit back and just say, yeah, this is it. This is Lupin leaving.
Yeah, like you would like to think that enough of the parents would be okay with it, but the one big roadblock that you're not getting past, if it even got to that point, in my mind, is Lucius Malfoy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's gotten Hagrid sent to Azkaban.
Mm-hmm.
He's gotten Buckbeak sentenced to death. Like, basically all unjustly.
Right.
And now Lupin as a werewolf, like that's more of a reason than any of the other things he's put through the government. And so I have to believe that if it got to that point that the parents were deciding whether or not he could stay, or if they had some say, or if it went to the governors of the school, like, yeah, it's just not going to work.
And even then, even if everything went smooth and he was able to stay there, he doesn't like the idea of things going wrong and him possibly attacking the student in werewolf form.
Yeah.
Like, he realizes, like, the risk is too high and he would never want to endanger one of the kids at Hogwarts just so that he could keep his job.
Yep.
And that's a sacrifice.
Granted,
because there's a few kids that could probably be eaten and be okay with it.
Yes, but like, granted, the events of this year, are never quite going to happen again.
Right.
And he is obviously going to be more diligent about taking the potion and that type of thing.
Mm.
But it just proved to him in his mind, put just enough doubt in his mind that this can happen.
Yeah. And not everything's like buttoned up. Like, Pettigrew is still out there.
Yep.
We don't know where he is, what he's doing, what he's up to, who he's rounding up. Like, everybody still thinks Sirius Black's a murderer. Like, there's still so many, like, even though, like, the events of this year wouldn't happen again, it's not like everything was resolved in a way that would, like, make him feel like, oh, yeah, we're good now,
Yep.
So, it just sucks seeing him leave. Like, I appreciate the sacrifice that he's making, but it sucks, and it hurt, and I did not like it at all. It was something I didn't want to be right about, Matt. And that was, like, Lupin having to leave.
Sure.
So. I'm glad Harry got his stuff back, though.
Yeah. I like that Lupin kind of made a quick transition from, I'm your teacher, but now I resigned, and now I'm your friend.
Yeah.
And like, does that make more sense now? Like, why he picked up the invisibility cloak? Like,
yes.
He in his mind, it was his responsibility as a teacher to grab these things.
Yes.
Like, whether or not he knew it was Harry's, whether or not he wanted Harry to have it, it was his responsibility as a potentially dangerous object that Snape just used against them, really.
Right.
That he should hold on to it.
Yeah. And I like the line about how James Potter would have been greatly disappointed if Harry and his friends had never found at least one
Yes.
secret passage in Hogwarts.
Yes.
Like, it's like even after all of this, it's still like, yeah, your dad was still a troublemaker, and he would be greatly disappointed if his son wasn't a little bit of a troublemaker also.
Yep.
I appreciate that. So, I hope it's not the last time we see Lupin. Like, I think that door is not slammed shut on a Lupin comeback of sorts. I don't know in what context he would come back, but
Lupin says that as he's leaving. I feel sure we'll meet again sometime.
yeah. So,
Like, he thinks it could happen.
right. But we don't get much going on in the outside world of Hogwarts. So, like,
It's true.
I'm pretty sure Lockhart is gone forever. Like, we're never going to see Lockhart again. I feel pretty confident in that. But different circumstances, right?
Yes.
So, we'll see. We'll see. Trelawney?
Yes.
Boy, she's a something else, isn't she?
She is. She is. I mean, we just get glimpses of her now and again throughout the year, but then when Harry talks to Dumbledore about her, it probably reveals more than we've learned the entire year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I just love his first reaction when, like, Harry says, like she's acting strange, and he's like, stranger than usual, you mean?
Exactly. He's not surprised at all that somebody is calling her strange.
Yeah.
He's like, well, yeah, you're talking about Trelawney, of course. What's new? But she got a prediction right. Her second.
Her second, yes. Like, he's keeping total, and he knows it's like only her second.
And he wants to give her a pay raise for
Yes,
it.
yes. Not just, I guess she can keep her job. No, I should give her a pay raise.
Now,
What?
is this her second this year or second total?
Dumbledore is implying second total.
That's what I thought. And then I'm thinking, no wonder Professor McGonagall has such a problem with this lady, because if that's her second prediction she's ever gotten right that Dumbledore is aware of, like,
Yep.
that would drive me crazy too, having a colleague that was, like, pretty much not
Worse
doing
than a
their job.
weatherman.
Yeah. Like, but, like, the thing is, when she's wrong, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter at all when she's wrong about predictions. But the moment she's right about something, hallelujah. Trelawney's onto something. She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
She could be wrong about 1,000 different things. But here she's about to get a pay raise because she got one prediction right.
Yeah, and like, even with that reaction, like, that's still not the reaction Harry was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of confuses him. And like, wait, what? Why aren't you more concerned about this? Like,
Right.
you're just happy she got it right, but these are, yeah.
I guess because her predictions like don't really actually change anything. You know, like,
Yeah.
she's not making a prediction so that somebody goes out and acts accordingly to ensure that the prediction happens or doesn't happen or whatever. Like,
It's
just
going
saying
to
it's
happen
going to.
regardless.
Yeah.
It's just letting you know what's going to happen.
So, like, her entire thing that she's teaching is pretty much irrelevant to anything other than just like, hey, I'm going to tell you something. You're not going to understand it until after it happens. Then after it happens, you're going to be like, oh yeah, that lady knew it was going to happen all along. So what?
Hey, but if you can put enough pieces together, like Harry and Dumbledore are apt to do, maybe you can make something out of it.
Yeah, but then like, but it's always going to happen after the fact. So
Pretty much.
It's not going to be ever useful in any circumstance other than just like, well, Trelawney's acting a fool again. And then, 8 chapters later, it's like, oh yeah, okay, well, that made sense.
Yeah.
But to what extent, So she could get a pay raise? No wonder McGonagall. I'm getting mad at Trelawney right now, and I didn't even think I was going into this podcast thinking I was mad at Trelawney. She's just locked up in her tower doing her own thing. Like, as long as she's not bugging anybody, just let her teach, I guess, right?
Something like that.
She's just kind of, getting into the minds of a few students that are probably just going to forego other wizarding classes to study divination, and that might not be the best thing, but hey, the world needs more whack jobs, so go for it. Dumbledore dropped a special line in this.
Did he?
He did, and I know you caught on to it, and I know you wrote it down, highlighted it, because you've mentioned it every single time it's been brought up in every single book that we've read so far, Matt.
Yeah.
In reference to Harry Potter, you have your mother's eyes.
It's true. But the best part is he mentions, I expect you'll tire of hearing it, but you look extraordinarily like James, except for the eyes. You have your mother's eyes.
There better be a payoff with this, Matt. Like, there better be some sort of payoff with people telling him that he has his mother's eyes. That's all I'm hoping for.
I guess it's how you recognize Harry Potter?
Might take 7 books, Matt, but it's going to mean something in the end.
Okay.
It's not even like references. It's the exact same line said over and over again by multiple different people.
Yep.
That's what's killing me now. And because you pointed out so many times, now it's all I can think about. Shame on you, Matt. Shame on you. Okay. This is when the Kleenex started happening and being necessary. The line that got me the most, that was incredibly hard to just get through, which really caught me off guard, was Prongs Road again last night.
Yes.
That killed me. Like that, I'm having a hard time right now keeping it together, just thinking and saying that line out loud, because it's so powerful. So powerful. And, gut-wrenching.
I definitely like that line as well. I think you're probably having about the same reaction to that line that I have to "You are truly your father's son."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely another strong line. Especially when you consider that it's coming from Dumbledore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's just
like, it'd be one thing if it was coming from Lupin or Sirius.
right.
Like they knew Prongs as Prongs.
Yeah.
They knew who Prongs was.
Right.
Now all of a sudden Dumbledore, like he's not just referencing, oh, you got in touch with your father last night or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, Prongs Road again. Like, wait, you know?
Right. He knows everything, Matt. He knows everything. He also knows that Harry Potter has to go back to the Dursleys.
It's true.
And it went from being super emotional and like just gut-wrenching conversation between Harry and Dumbledore to, I'm sick to my stomach because now I have to think about the Dursleys again.
Yeah.
God, what a punch in the gut, Matt.
Every year.
Close. Harry had a 30-minute window when he was the happiest kid on the face of this planet.
Yep.
And back to the Dursleys. Anyway, Hermione passed Muggle Studies with 320%.
She did.
Kind of slacking there, but, you know, she could have done better if she wasn't taking so many classes.
Like, I understand extra credit and that type of thing, but come on, JK. 320.
Too much, Hermione. Too much. Like, if they would, like, squeak by at, like, 120%, it'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
320%? Stop it, Hermione. Stop.
What kind of test are you taking that you somehow got the teacher to think that was a good idea?
Who teaches Muggle Studies, by the way? Do we know?
I don't think we know who that is.
Okay.
No.
I'm curious. I want to know. Also, I like how she's just like, yeah, I'm done with it. And then Ron doesn't know what a telephone is still. What do you call it? A fellitone?
Fellitone.
Fellitone, yeah. She's like, you need to take this class, Ron.
Yep.
Not a bad idea. You should go for it, Ron. You got this. Okay, so they're on the train, heading home. Everything's kind of wrapping up here. And then something super strange happened.
Yeah.
Super tiny little owl. Barely able to hold this letter.
Yep.
And I'm thinking of the most cartoonish, smallest owl I could possibly think of. One, I want a little baby tiny owl like that because it sounds adorable.
Sure.
Two, Sirius Black, like that's the best he could come up with?
Well, he's in hiding right now. It's not like he can walk into the store and shop for owls.
I guess not.
Beggars can't be choosers.
Sure.
And yeah, but the first thing I think of, because you made such a big deal about it earlier in the book, was the local deliveries only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's that bird right there.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so here's a question about Owlpost and how this all works.
Okay.
So obviously, Sirius sent his little baby tiny owl with this giant letter to go find Harry, which was going to be on the train from Hogwarts back to the train station. Okay,
yep.
Whatever. Owls are magical. They know how to find people at all times. Whatever.
Yep.
And like you said, Sirius Black is in hiding right now. He even mentioned like he might get seen by a muggle or two here and there just to prove that he's far away from Hogwarts and make everybody feel a little bit better about things. But relatively speaking, he's in hiding and he doesn't expect anyone to ever find him.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
But then he drops the line about just send me a letter and your owl will come deliver it to me.
Yep.
How does that happen? How does that owl know where somebody is like that? If they're not that good of hiding, don't you feel like owls could be used in sinister ways to find people?
You would think so.
So that's a whole nother thing. Like, why did nobody send Sirius Black a letter via owl after he escaped Azkaban? Because I feel like if that's possible, an owl would have found him right away, and this whole book wouldn't have had to happen. Like, we would have found Sirius Black.
I mean, you can send him a letter, but you have to be able to have some way of tracking the owl.
Yeah, fly next to it in your broomstick.
Maybe. But if you're, a flying owl is a whole lot less innocuous than someone flying on a broomstick.
I guess. I just feel like that line specifically just gave a little bit too much power to the owl post, and I don't like it. I'm revoking some of it, Matt. So Sirius sent the firebolt. The big question I had going into this chapter.
Yep.
Of course he did.
Yep.
Just like Hermione said.
Exactly.
Why didn't we listen to Hermione? She's a time traveler. She already knew this happened.
She just thought it was malicious at the time, so she was right, but she didn't have the full story.
That's true. So that tied up that loose end, and everything is better now. Now here's something. Very interesting, Matt. So this whole thing was just like kind of a throwaway, like, hey, I bought you a firebolt, 13 years of presents that I didn't get you for, being your godfather. Totally owed you, whatever, right? Grand scheme of things, didn't really mean much to the story in the end, right? Other than just like him just kind of proving like how good of a dude he really is, and
sure
how he was trying to make up for not being around, right? Understandably so.
Yeah.
But there are some specific details that were thrown into this explanation about him buying the firebolt.
Yep.
That I don't know were necessary to what was going on, but the fact that there were these details in here completely overlooked by events in this chapter, in this book, I'm pocketing these things, Matt, and I'm going to bring these back at some point, because I'm telling you what, the fact that his safety deposit box number was mentioned, 711, was specifically mentioned at Gringotts Bank. He could have just said, hey, I bought you this firebolt. 13 years, owed you a present. Hope you enjoy. But, like, there was some great detail put into, like, how he couldn't just walk in and buy it, so he had to have, you know, it taken right out of his bank and blah, 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 and it was out of his safety deposit box, and too much over-explanation on J.K. Rowling's part. And I don't think that is just a mistake. Or it wasn't needed. It wasn't just fluff. There's a purpose behind it. We are going to come back to the fact that Sirius Black has money in this bank, in this specific box, or vault, or whatever it is. We're coming back to this. Mark it down. I'm calling it right now.
Okay. I did make a note about him mentioning his vault.
Okay.
And
I keep calling it a box because I don't.
Yeah.
It seems. Yeah.
Now I'm not quite sure where you're getting the number from.
Oh, it's in there, Matt.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding that.
I don't have the book on me.
Yeah. If you find that, you'll have to let me know.
Okay.
Because I'm having a lot of trouble finding that.
Okay.
But I did question just the fact that he sent these orders for money to be taken from his vault to pay for things, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because
would somebody be curious about Sirius Black's money being taken out?
Like the I mean, maybe it's just our way, the American way of thinking too much, but like if he's the number one on the for lack of a better term, the FBI's most wanted list.
Sure, yeah.
Right? He's number one on their list. They are going to lock down all his assets.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing they're going to do, freeze his bank account.
Right.
So how on earth does he get money out of there? Even if he's not going, he's sending someone else. Like, they're allowing money to come out of there. They have to know who that belongs to, unless the banking system is so, I don't know, privatized that the goblins are completely in control and the ministry can't tell them what to do.
Goblins just don't care, Matt.
Yeah, and so they're just in control of the bank, and they say, well, his money's here. I don't care. He has a note here. He signed it, whatever, and we're going to send this money out.
Right.
Like, yeah. It just seems so weird that he is a public enemy number one, and they're allowing him to remove money from his bank.
Right. I don't know. Something fishy's going on.
But like you said, she in any case, she did go into great detail about how that was done.
Yeah.
She did make a note of things, but yeah, it's something.
We'll see. I'm not just gonna forget about that. That's gonna come back.
Sure.
Better than that though. Permission slip signed.
Yes.
This made me start bawling again, Matt. I was just like, oh my god, like this is the greatest moment of Harry Potter's life so far.
Better than the firebolt.
Yeah, because like the firebolt was a cool gift, right? It was a very cool thing. But like the permission slip is so unimportant to 99% of the students at Hogwarts, whereas to Harry, like that meant the world to him because
it's freedom.
It's freedom, but it's also a parental figure that
and family
that loves him, that cares about him and his well-being, and wants him to be happy at what he's doing. Right? Like he may not be able to go live with Sirius Black, but like just this one little token, like Sirius knew how important that was to Harry, and it was such a small thing. But like I said, to Harry, that was the world.
Yeah,
that was so much more than just being able to go hang out on the weekends with his friends.
Yep, it was something that honestly, it was like the easiest thing for Sirius to give him.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's the thing that meant the most too.
Yep. Then Ron got a new owl out of the whole deal.
Yep.
Little baby tiny owl, which I cannot wait for that to transpire into future books, because, whoo boy, that's going to be fun. Also, It's Crookshanks approved.
Yeah. I used Crookshanks, the animagus detector.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Crookshanks approved.
Crookshanks, the quote-unquote cat.
I'm sorry you won't get to go pet shopping with Ron, but...
Yeah. Well, look, there's no guarantee that this baby owl is going to have a long and healthy life. I mean, this thing is tiny and fragile.
It's true.
Yeah.
But at least Crookshanks didn't try to eat it right away.
No, but if Crookshanks gets hungry, the thing is an appetizer at best.
It's true.
And then the very end, the end of the book.
Yep.
Harry Potter, mic dropped on Uncle Vernon. Like, he was just, like, on top of the world at this point, and he's just like, you know what? I don't even care. Like, I'm going to tell you how it is, and I don't care about your reaction, because this is the truth. You're going to deal with it, because I'm Harry freaking Potter.
Yep. I mean, ever since Dobby came along and did his magic in the house, and Harry got the notice that, oh, you're not supposed to be doing magic, like, he lost any semblance of power that he had at the Dursleys to make his life tolerable.
Yeah.
And now, once again, he has a new threat, and he's going to use it.
Yeah. I love it. I loved it so much. Matt?
Yes.
About 16 chapters in to Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, I hadn't fully understood why this was your favorite book.
I believe it.
And why it was so good.
Yep.
It was very back heavy.
Yep.
But my goodness, those last 4 chapters. 6, really, but like the last 4.
Yep, they get you.
Wow. Just incredible. I don't know where the story is possibly going to go from here. But wow. Yeah. That was a lot. That was a lot.
It's true.
Yeah. That's all I got.
So we'll let that sink in for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll continue on to the Muggle poll.
Yes.
For episode 32. We've been talking a lot about anime guy, however you want to pronounce that word. It's another one of those words I swing back and forth. Anime guy or anime guy.
Sure.
Animagus. Animaguses. It's not animaguses, but anyway. If you could become an animagus, what animal would you choose? So not Patronus, but animagus.
Sure.
So you could physically change into an animal.
Okay.
So I gave you the options of cat, rat, or dog, or other, and you have to tell me what you want to change it to.
What do the people say?
Well, someone, I'm pretty sure it's just one person this time, snuck in a rat. We have 1% for rat.
Who in their right mind would want to turn into a rat?
I don't know.
If you're out there, raise your hand.
Keep one hand on the wheel, though. But we do have a tie right now for 34% a cat, 34% with other.
Okay.
And then very close, because we only have 1% on rat, we have 31% on dog.
Okay.
So it's a very close race.
Sure.
Yeah. Obviously, other covers a lot of things.
Yeah.
But people had some ideas. To be honest, most of them went with some form of bird.
Okay.
because they want to be able to fly, which I can understand that. I can see that. It's not where I went. But I'm just gonna read off some of these answers quick.
Sure.
So we have a snake, python actually, and they're big, fast, and strong creature feared by most, but can also be adored by many. A dragon, duh. I mean, like the bird, they can fly. I can see that, but a little more intimidating.
Sure. Cook your food before you eat it. Like it.
I think a mountain goat or a snow leopard would be cool. Man, those animals can climb sheer rock without much worry, but hunter or hunted?
Mountain goat. Huh.
It's true. They can climb.
I know, but like
just for the fact that you can climb like sheer rock faces, like it makes for a quick getaway. I was out at where was it? Oh, when I was out on Catalina Island. We were on one of our tours and we were up in the mountains, and all of a sudden we saw this deer on the side of the road, and this was this, your typical mountainside road where we're in the vehicle, we're on the road, there's a rock face on our right side, and to the left it just drops off.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you don't want to exit the vehicle because you have like half a step before you fall.
Right.
And so there's this deer on the side of the road, and we're like, okay, we'll just drive slowly, let you do your thing. And he just goes off the left side. I'm like, wait, what? How did you do that? and so we're all like peering over the edge because we can kind of lean out of the car and see over the edge. I'm like he just booked it down the side of this hill. Like,
sure.
This is a good, like, not far off of 90 degrees. Like, it just like straight down. I'm like, I guess that's probably how you got up here too, but man, I don't understand how you live your life.
Just being an animal that just runs up and down the side of a mountain.
Well, that's the thing with being an animagus is you don't have to live your life like that.
Yeah, I guess
it's just you have the option.
Sure. That's fair.
All right, back to a few more answers. We have wolf.
Okay.
Probably some kind of bird, like a hawk.
Okay.
I have to give this to Rihanna. Giant squid.
Stole my answer. She knew it too. She knew what she was doing.
Oh yeah, she does. They said, or some other kind of water animal would be acceptable as well. A bear, an owl. I love to fly, and they're at the top of the food chain. A large bat. Probably the noble and hardworking beaver. Something that can fly, maybe an eagle.
Okay.
A puffin penguin. A toucan. Badger, because they don't care.
That's true.
Yep. And a bluebird, although I've never heard of such a thing. Is that even possible? I hope so.
A bluebird? That's a real thing.
Yeah.
Bluebirds,
I would
blue
think so.
jays. There's all kinds of bluebirds out there.
Oh yeah.
Okay, if I can't turn into a giant squid, Matt.
Yeah.
I know what else I want to be.
What's that?
Platypus.
Interesting.
Those are fascinating creatures.
They are.
You
They're also poisonous.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Nobody knows they're poisonous. That's a weird thing.
That's one of those. Yeah, it always makes the list of like cute animals you never knew were poisonous.
Yeah.
But I believe I learned that when we went down to Australia. For our honeymoon.
Sure.
We spent some time down there, and we got to see a number of platypus. Platypi.
You've seen one in real life? You lucky
dog. Yeah. They have them down there, and of course, Becca wanted to export one, but they don't allow that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a lot of paperwork involved with that.
I'm pretty sure they don't allow that. like maybe zoos or something might be able to get an exemption, but yeah, just people, no.
Man, I want to see a platypus so bad.
Yeah, they're pretty
awesome. It's on my
awesome.
bucket list, Matt.
Yeah, it's worth it.
What was your answer?
Honestly, I've always been fascinated by monkeys.
Okay.
I usually lean towards like a spider monkey,
Okay.
kind of small, nimble, agile. But I also like the fact that they still maintain some form of dexterity,
Sure.
which I think could come in handy. Like you can climb fast, you can swing from tree to tree, you can do all that sort of stuff. But just to have that dexterity along with you, yet I think would be pretty key.
Right. You wouldn't have to turn back into a human to be able to use your hands and such.
Yep,
Yeah. I like that. I like that.
I do.
Maybe a sloth. Sloth would be cool. You're literally not expected to do anything with your life at that point.
I was gonna say, if you just want to sit around and do nothing, sure.
And nobody's going to give you grief for it.
Yeah.
That sounds glorious right now.
All right.
Nice poll question, though. I like that. Good job.
Yeah, worked out well.
Yeah. Now, before we close the show here,
Yep.
Is there any chance we have like at least one email we could read?
Well, let's double check the email inbox and
See if anybody loves us this week.
would you look at that?
You found one?
I did.
Woohoo!
I found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Holy cow. Let's do it.
10 emails, record number, and unlike last week, I can read them all.
Ding, 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 ding. You guys are awesome. Also, shame on you for writing emails that don't even have stuff pertaining to the end of this book, but future books, shame on you. Matt told me your guys' little secret about writing in emails about future books. Get out of here with that nonsense. Save it. We'll be around.
All right. First email is from Karen.
Hi, Karen.
She says, "Hi, Josh and Matt. This is my first time sending in fan mail and writing a review of any kind." She did submit her iTunes review along with this.
Perfect.
"But I am loving the podcast so much, I was compelled to finally do so." Awesome. That's what we like.
Sure.
"I get so excited when I get a notification that a new episode is ready to be downloaded. I think the only other time that I get that giddy is when I'm visiting the Wizarding World at Universal."
She's going to be so excited for tomorrow.
Yep. "Truly, I love your show so much. I've gone back and started listening to the earlier episodes. Not only is it fun listening to Josh's early thoughts on the books, but it helps with the week-long wait until the next episode is ready. Thankfully, now we also have Butterbeer Banter and Muggle Theories. Great additions to an already great show. Josh, I'm so glad to see you're loving the series. Just you wait. It only gets better. I can't wait to hear what other theories you come up with as the story continues to unfold. Your reactions and developing excitement for the series will go down as some of the finest moments in podcasting history. You guys are doing a great job. Matt, thanks for talking Josh into this. And Josh, thanks for keeping an open mind."
Oh. I have this worry, Matt, that at some point we're going to get to that peak of the mountain where people stop saying, "Don't worry, it gets better." Where it's just like, remember when it was good? Do you remember those days? I'll be like, yeah, I remember those days. Yeah, it's downhill from here, folks. I hope it doesn't happen, Matt, but I worry. Because the farther we get into the series, you can only hear it only gets better so many times before you start to question,
I understand.
Can it?
I understand. But, I mean, you think about it, like, even if there is an arc of some sort, like, the sheer volume of what we have yet to read.
Yeah.
Like you were saying you just picked up book 4 the other day and
it's massive.
It was shocking how big it was.
Right.
Like 5, 6, and 7 are like at least that big, if not bigger.
Yeah.
So even though 4 is like it should be the midpoint of the series, like length of what we're reading is not the midpoint at all.
Sure. Also, here's my other concern. Now that I'm thinking about it. Most people that listen to this show, I would say, are fans of the entire series, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In one way, shape, or form. Where are that? Is there a small subsect of Harry Potter fans that were just like, you know what? Books 1, 2, 3, fantastic. The rest didn't care for him. Didn't like him. Series just got exponentially worse. Like, where are the people that like dropped off halfway through the series that were just like, yeah, it had me at the beginning, but oh man, it got rough. Like, do those people exist out there? I want to meet those people just for curiosity's sake. I'm not saying the series is going to tank anytime soon, but look,
Sure,
it's not 100% success rate with this series with people.
Well, I think your best bet is to reach out to our audience that we have here.
Yeah.
Because I think anyone that's coming back to listen to us talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
anyone that is taking the time to reread the books with us, which most of these people are, or at least they have reread them all in the past at some point.
Right.
Like, these are not the people you're looking for. However, if you're going to find someone who falls into the category that you're looking for, who liked the first 3 books and then it went downhill from there, like, your best bet is that it's going to be the friend of one of these people that's listening.
No, I'm not actively looking for them. I'm just saying the sample size that we have here is pretty much all positive through the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know that there's that person that's just like, I read the second book. It was okay. And it's like, can you just read like one random book of the series and call it good? Like, is that a thing? Is that a group of people out there also?
I think it would be hard to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw how you got sucked in.
I know.
Like, it may have been a slow start, but I think if you make it through one book, you kind of get curious and you kind of want to keep going, unless you do not have the time, or you just you're not enough of a self-starter to get yourself to get that next book for some reason. Like, I could see that.
I should have just jumped in on Goblet of Fire and see where I stood.
So this is book 1, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Try to swing that one by you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. On to email number 2 from Rihanna.
Hi, Rihanna.
Thoughts on Lupin? I believe this is going back to last week when you were questioning how Lupin reacted.
Okay.
She says, I do think Lupin has a pretty mellow head on his shoulders. However, if you found out your best friend had been murdered by one of your other best friends, and all along thought it was one of your... Okay, sorry. If you found out your best friend had been murdered by one of your other best friends, and all along thought it was one of your other best friends, I think blind rage is pretty called for in this situation. Also, I'm not sure if maybe the full moon still had an effect on his mood. It's literally that time of the month for him.
Right.
Even though he didn't turn yet, perhaps the 24-hour period around turning makes him more susceptible to heightened emotions.
And it was still a full moon, like it was just behind the clouds.
Said I tried to look it up in the Fantastic Magical Beasts, but it didn't have much info on werewolves. Josh, you made another correct prediction, as far as we can tell right now. Lupin resigned and isn't coming back next year. He was too good to be true. Hope next year's teacher makes it through.
Wait, what does she mean by as far as we could tell right now?
As far as we can tell right now, Lupin told us he resigned.
No, that's true. Is there a possibility he's coming back?
Why not?
I don't know. Because I wrote him off.
Dumbledore talks him into it.
I cried. I wiped my tears. We moved on. The Craigslist ad is already posted for school in need of Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Salary to be determined.
Over the summer, Lupin works on his new disguise and...
Is he... Maybe he's just going to hang out with Hagrid. Just so Hagrid can learn about werewolves some more.
There you go. She says, one problem I have with the time paradox is that wouldn't Lupin or Snape have seen that there were 2 Harrys and 2 Hermiones out and about on the map?
Whoa. That's freaky.
It's a thought. And I'm not entirely sure how the map works, for one. But yeah, I suppose there is a good chance there would have been 2 of them marked on the map. However, I don't know. I'm going to write it off as they may have been on the map, but they definitely weren't looking for him. Like if they found one, it depends. Like, okay, Lupin would have been he's probably looking for Harry's name.
Right.
He finds Harry's name. Hermione's right next to it. That's where he's going.
Yeah,
he's not going to sit there and keep looking around for more names.
That far apart.
Yes and no. This map covers a lot of ground.
Matt, according to my map that I drew, they are pretty much right next to each other. So I don't know what map you're looking at.
I forgot to mention that though too. I don't think your map works anymore. We got another description of them running around, and they actually mentioned their greenhouses, and so I think your greenhouses don't work where you have them on the map.
They're on the wrong side of the castle.
Yep.
Yeah.
In any case, there's a lot going on that map at all times because it covers everybody everywhere that's in that area. There's a lot of names and a lot of markers and just
but how many of those names are outside though? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, there were only a few people outside at that point.
I suppose it was a weird time of day.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's a good point. Now my brain hurts.
Yep.
Yeah.
She also says, I love the scene where Snape completely flips his lid after Sirius gets away. And the scene where Harry tells Uncle Vernon about his godfather.
Yes.
Good stuff. Till next week, Hufflepuff out. Thank you, Rihanna.
Mm-hmm.
Next email is from someone I don't think we've heard from before, Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte.
How does he do it? How did he guess that Hermione is a time traveler? And he's just going to throw that out there at the end of the episode? Was that really a joke that he doesn't know he was spot on?
Dumb luck. That's what that was.
To be fair, I'm not really reading along with you guys since I've read the book so many times, but I could swear that reveal isn't until next chapter. I want to see his face when he reads that. It really bothers me that so many of his predictions are so close. I missed all of these my first read through, given I was like 10, but still. I've finished the last episode and I need to get all that out. I love the podcast and I've been listening since the beginning. Keep doing what you're doing and I can't wait till book 4. Also, nope, we're not going to read that.
Okay. Two things here.
Yes.
One, after we ended last week and we signed off.
Yep.
The first thing that you said to me off air was, we're going to have so many emails about what you just said. And I immediately went to, why? What did I say about Buckbeak? Because I'm pretty sure that that was the one thing I was trying to hone in on.
Yep.
And I was like, did I say something about Buckbeak that I shouldn't have? What are people going to pick up on? Not once did it dawn on me that what I said about Hermione thing was the thing that you were implying that everybody was going to freak out about.
Yep.
Because I was just that was something I said in passing because it was the quickest thing I could think of to explain what was going on. So,
that's why I left it so vague for you, because you had just listed off 12 things that were going on. And right. I'm like, shoot, everybody's going to hone in on that one because they know it's true.
Secondly, as we've talked about with my predictions and how things work, I have the benefit of reading 2 chapters at a time and then thinking about it for a week straight before reading the next 2 chapters, whereas everybody else in the history of this world that's read Harry Potter has not done it this way at all.
Yeah.
So by the time you're putting puzzle pieces together and everything like that, you're already finding out the answers. It's happening so quickly for everybody else that's reading it. Me, I'm methodical. I'm taking my time, and I have time to process every little detail.
Yeah. So Charlotte, even though you read it when you were 10, the fact of the matter is you probably read through the entire book in a week or less and just didn't bother to sit down and think about these things.
Yeah. And talk it
Could
out
you have-
as they're happening.
Exactly. And bounce ideas off someone and talk about it for 2-3 hours a week. Do you talk about this with Val at home too?
No, because two things. She's either going to kill me because
I was going to say it would kill her not to be able to say anything.
yes, and she hates the schedule. She absolutely despises it because she wants it to go faster. So I try not to bring it up too much. But secondly, I'm desperately afraid that one time I may ask her something inadvertently and catch her off guard, and she'll
just instinctively answer.
Yeah, just not even thinking about it, and I don't want to take that risk. So I try not to talk to her about it too much.
Have a Hagrid moment.
Yeah, pretty much.
Should not have told you that.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, thank you, Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
Next email from Zach.
Hi, Zach.
Okay, for the record, the one thing that bothers me about emails, I'm sorry I'm pointing this out about yours, Zach, but you are not the only one who does this. A lot of people do this, and it bothers me. It shouldn't. It's a little thing, but when you tell me you're going to try to make this short and and then apologize for it being long and that type of thing, like, I don't care how long your email is. I'm still probably going to read it. I'm definitely going to read it. I'll still probably read it on the show. Like, I don't care about length. You adding in that line honestly just makes it longer. So,
And then of course you explaining it for 2 minutes.
Yes. Well, you see, like I'm doing it now, so hopefully I'm going to get less of that in the future.
Don't have the Atari Alex syndrome is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. All right. So anyway, so to skip over that.
I don't mind it, Zach, just for the record.
It says, to start with the end of the last episode, was Josh spoiled about time travel?
No.
Once again, no. He was literally just guessing, just throwing darts at a dartboard, and he somehow managed to, yeah. Completely on that topic, this reading has maybe my favorite sequence in the series. I love the time turner sequence. A bit of it, admittedly, because I've merged the book and the movie versions in my mind, but it's probably my favorite. There being one other contender, which I can't read.
Of course.
I
was waiting for it too.
It's an almost perfect way of making a particular type of time travel work. I remember reading it as a kid and not just liking it because it's a cool idea, but because it seems so obvious looking back. I start to wonder why I didn't put it together earlier.
It's weird. Trust me.
It's weird trying to put together my first time through the books. My first time thoughts for the books, except for the last two. I started reading them after the first movie, which both means that I was 9 at the time that I read the first 4 books. And they were all out at the same time, so I made my way through them really quickly. I also had one summer where I read through the whole series, the first 5 books at the time, about 4 or 5 times. So there's a lot that I just cannot remember the first time through these books, which is exactly why I like this podcast so much. I have the same problem. Everything just starts to meld together.
Yeah.
I know you both thought that I was a little crazy for listening to each episode of the podcast twice, but that's because it's taking something that was such a big part of my life growing up and getting to see it again from a newcomer's perspective, which no one that I know really has about the series anymore. It also helps that with listening, I'm the weirdo who listens to podcasts at 3 times the speed. Yeah, I haven't tried it with our podcast, but I kind of wonder how we sound sped up.
Sure. Yeah.
I think I've done it with some of your other podcasts, Josh, but I can't listen to it for too long. Like I'll do it if I've listened to it before, like like my second time through, I could do that, but it's usually like if I'm searching for a specific part where I don't remember where it is, it's like okay, I can speed this up.
Yeah.
But yeah, first time through, I cannot do that.
Yeah.
This is the same reason I listened to another Harry Potter podcast. Dun dun dun.
Wait, what?
With the same premise.
He's a time traveler because
I'm sorry.
As far as I know, there is no other Harry Potter podcast. So maybe there's one in the future that he's traveling to and getting.
I don't know. There's something fun about seeing people come to enjoy the same things you do. And I'll take whatever award you're giving out for listening to this twice every week. I believe you mentioned that last week. You're going to give him an award. You have to work
back
on it.
In time. Change that.
Related to that, I don't have a strong visual in my mind about how Lupin was acting when he was going to kill Peter. I'd honestly never thought about how it might be a little incongruous for him to be suddenly murderous, but now it's in my head and I might have to start reading along with the podcast. I haven't been so far, but I'd be reading the books differently now than I was before. I did listen to the audiobooks a few months ago, but haven't read through the book since 2007.
Now it's time to start. Starting a new book in 2 weeks.
It's true. Good time to jump in.
Best time, some will say.
One of Josh's reactions made me feel better about myself and these books. Let me explain. I remember people who were older when they read these books mocked the name Remus Lupin, especially since it's treated as a twist/surprise that he's a werewolf. I felt stupid that I never got it, and I was just too young and stupid to know anything at the time. Listening to the podcast, I think it might be a bit more obvious if you know it already, like it feels when you reread the book or when you're looking for it. Mm-hmm. Not that it's a dumb name that gives away the entire book to anyone who reads it. Makes sense.
Yeah. No, totally.
But like, I mean, as you're finding out, Josh, like the names are pretty much all picked for a specific reason.
Sure.
Like, I mean, with the exception maybe of Harry Potter. Like, I don't know if you're going to get any real meaning out of that. But all the other, like, professors we've come across, like, yeah, they're very specific and named for a certain reason.
What's Flitwick named for? Tell me, Matt.
But, yeah, I mean, when I read through a book for the first time, I'm not looking at that. I'm just like, oh, that's his name. That's a cool name. Yep. Sure. I wasn't like, oh, what does that mean? Oh, it's related to wolves. He must be a wolf. Like, no, that doesn't like you said. I mean, kind of like the time travel thing. It's like you thought that was preposterous.
Yeah.
To assume that there would be time travel involved in this story until there is time travel.
Yeah.
Huh. It's kind of like every time we came across a new beast, a new fantastic beast, it's like, oh, they're in this world. They're in this world. What?
Right. Yeah. People have this tendency to be have revisionist history of sorts, where it's just like Sirius Black. Yeah, of course. Like, there's all kinds of connections to being a big old scary dog with that name, but like your first time through, you reading Sirius Black and being like, oh, he's totally a dog. Afterwards, and you find out like everything, and it all makes sense. You're just like, well, yeah, I knew that. Obviously, it made sense. You know, like there's that whole. It makes sense after the fact, but I'm going to go ahead and take credit for kind of assuming it made sense during the point of reading it as well. And, you know, it gets all blurry and hazy, and who's really fact-checking these days anyway, so.
Yeah.
I get it.
Finish up with, well, that's all I have to say until we get to the movie, which is going to be really interesting.
Giant squid.
All right. So we already kind of knew our podcast had gone international with the UK, but this one beats it a little bit. This one is from Noam.
Hi, Noam.
Says, Dear Josh and Matt, hi, I'm a 15-year-old boy since Groundhog Day from Sweden.
Sweden, eh?
Yeah.
All right.
Says, I really love listening to your podcast, my absolute favorite. I have read all the Harry Potter books about 7 to 8 times, but I really enjoy listening to them being analyzed and rereading them and discovering new details. I feel that I read the books so fast for the first time that I never really got to enjoy the books in the same way Josh must be doing, although somewhat painfully. I really, and he had a problem translating a word here. He says that he went for indulge, but I'm going to say I would really encourage Josh to enjoy the books while he can for the first time, knowing that this is the last time he is reading them for the first time.
I've had that epiphany a couple different times so far in my reading.
Yeah.
That's tough.
And if anyone speaks Swedish out there, he's trying to translate the word una, if that helps you. And in any case, I really enjoyed last week's episode and was full of emotional moments and strange plots of the book. Yep, that's the part we leave out.
You guys are so bad. Even you, Sweden.
Yep. Hey, he was nice enough to change the font for me.
Oh, okay.
Parts I couldn't read.
Sure.
So he continues, I wonder what Josh thinks about Trelawney's power of predicting things with her inner eye now.
Skeptical.
Still?
She's a fortune cookie.
All right. I don't know if Josh has gotten enough credit for realizing that Buckbeak was not killed, and because Buckbeak was on the cover of the book. I really love the character Buckbeak, and my family named our earlier cat Beaky.
That's cool.
What does Josh think of the legacy and possible continuation of the story of Buckbeak and Sirius? Any thoughts there?
It's not the last we see of Sirius.
Sure.
I feel like Buckbeak is going to make a return in some way, shape, or form. Now that he's out there, I think we'll see them both. To what extent, I don't know. But if I could have like a little buddy cop spin-off series of what Buckbeak and Sirius Black are up to in hiding, that would be fun. I imagine Buckbeak wearing some sunglasses and a Hawaiian t-shirt and really trying to blend in.
All right. And then he also asks any predictions for the fourth book. And was this... any predictions for the fourth book, and was this the best book yet?
I predict that there'll be some sort of goblet.
Sure.
There will probably be some fire involved in some capacity.
Fair enough.
And was this the best book out of the three?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Lastly, I'd like to say that I'm strongly against the idea of you reading the coming books faster than 2 chapters a week for several reasons. I did some quick counting and found out that the number of pages per chapter will only increase in the coming books. And he actually took the time to go through all 7 books and take the total number of pages and total number of chapters and break down the average number of pages per chapter in all of 7 books.
Wow.
Yeah. Put a lot of time into that.
Awesome. That will help Matt immensely going forward.
So yeah, it's about an average of 13 pages per chapter in the first 2 books. We jumped up closer to 17 in the third book, and then go to like 17, 20, 17.
That's fair.
Yeah. I will address this more next week, but if you head over to talesfromgodricshollow.com, I do have at least temporary schedule for book 4 up there. And it might look like we're taking things a little bit faster, but not really, because the chapters, as much as I would love to just say, oh yeah, every chapter is 17 pages long, they're not. So there's some shorter chapters, some longer chapters, and so like some weeks we might actually be reading 3 chapters, but that's because they're all really short. So, like I said, we'll touch on that more next week before we get into book 4. But if you want to get a head start, if you want to take a look at that, you can go ahead and do that. So he finishes up by saying, I'm really looking forward to the next episodes, and I hope you take my ideas into consideration. I know you have asked a lot of I asked a lot of questions, and you maybe don't have to read the whole letter. And he explains the different font he was using.
Sure.
I'm sorry for the long letter, but I am so excited about the show and couldn't help myself. I certainly agree with Josh that this is the best Harry Potter podcast out there. Yeah. Keep up the good work.
Best and only. Thanks, Zach. That's what I heard.
That was Gnome, by the way.
That was Gnome.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Zach was the last one.
Yep.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Both of you.
It's all
I apologize.
Good. Gnome from Sweden.
Gnome from Sweden.
All right. Get one here from Brent.
Hi, Brent.
Says, hey, Matt and Josh. Just wanted to say congratulations on reaching the end of yet another book where all of your questions have been answered, except for what's really going on with Crookshanks. Or
I'm not letting that go.
Now that we've arrived here, I just want to take a moment and talk about why this is one of my favorites of the entire series. For me, it is really the intelligence of how this was written. Along with football and Harry Potter, I'm also a big sci-fi fan, as I'm sure many of your listeners are. So as you can imagine, time travel plots are something we're quite used to, along with the idea of people going back in time to change the past. Personally, I have always thought that if time travel was possible, that it would be impossible to change the past. If someone were to go back and kill their own grandfather or rescue a beheaded hippogriff, rather than creating a time paradox or alternate universe, I have always believed that it just means you were always part of the timeline. So I particularly love this book because that's exactly how J.K. treats time travel here. All the events were included. Nothing changed by Harry and Hermione going back in the past. That's just always how it was.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what I was getting at in the main show.
Yeah. Still kind of hurts my head, but okay.
Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one much as we all did. Enjoy the movie and then settle in, because the books get much, much longer from here on out. But they're still good. And for me personally, my top 1, 3, and 4 are still to come.
Ooh.
I think he was one of the ones that said this was his second favorite. So
right, yeah.
That's the 2 that we're missing. But
Sure.
1, 3, and 4 are still to come. Interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, Brent. Got another one here from Harry.
Hi, Harry.
Hey, Matt and Josh. What a bittersweet ending, huh?
Tell me about it.
Despite losing the chance to leave the Dursleys forever, and despite Pettigrew getting away to rejoin his master, the most tragic part of this book to me is the loss of Lupin as the Defense Against Dark Arts professor.
Yeah.
In Lupin's outing as a werewolf, I think J.K. did a great job highlighting ongoing prejudices in the wizarding world that exist under the surface for even well-meaning characters like Hagrid. Lupin's line that the parents aren't going to want their children to be taught by someone like him was especially heartbreaking. It's not easy for a guy with Lupin's condition to find work, as J.K. points out by describing the shabby state of his robes and battered briefcase. And
I
just
never
when
thought about that. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
That's heartbreaking.
And just when he finally found a steady gig, our favorite character Snape blows it all up. Even Hagrid was surprised by Harry's reaction that Lupin shouldn't be leaving the school, assuming it was given that a werewolf should not hold a teaching job. It's just a shame because I believe Lupin truly enjoyed teaching students, had a gift for bringing out the best in them, even Neville, who needed much confidence and encouragement. And he was one of the best professors that Hogwarts ever had. This chocolate bar is for you, Professor Lupin.
That's tearing me up just thinking about that. I had never thought about that. Oh my goodness.
It's very true. Like every time we meet him, like every time he's coming or going, like she mentions that his robes and his briefcase, they're all battered, and like he's just he's had it rough.
Oh god.
Until you find someone like Dumbledore who believes in him.
I hate Snape so much. I'm kind of mad at you, Matt, for him being your favorite character right now. Okay.
I know.
Okay, I got this. Power through.
All right. I got an email from Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
Dear Josh and Matt, every time I finish this book, I'm reminded of why it's one of my favorites. These last 2 chapters are so full of amazing story, but also do a great job of setting up the rest of the series. One of my favorite things about this book is that it's the first time that not everything is resolved at the end. For the first 2 years Harry is at Hogwarts, he finds a way to resolve the conflict by the end, protecting the stone and discovering the chamber/heir Slytherin. Well, in the end, Harry does rescue both Buckbeak and Sirius and discover more about the night his parents died. Sirius is still on the run and Pettigrew escapes. Where do you think the story will go, Josh?
Back to square one.
And so I'm going to pause right here because Lauren was the one who actually came up with this idea.
Okay.
So
this is the challenge. All right.
She came up with this when a couple weeks back when started doing Muggle Theories.
Uh-huh.
And first thought in her mind was when we were all reading through these books for the first time. We read through the book, and then we had to wait months or maybe even close to a year before the next book came out.
Okay.
So we were all sitting there and coming up with the craziest theories about what was going to happen in the next book. So I know we've had a couple people touch on, what do you think is going to happen in the 4th book kind of thing.
Right.
But this is what I'm going to challenge you to do.
Okay.
Not only for this book, but for all the books following, is in between the books.
Mm-hmm.
You basically have 2 weeks. Obviously, the sooner you can get it out, the better. But
sure.
Try to come up with some of those theories. What do you think is going to happen in this next book? I mean, it could be anything from characters. Do we know what's going to happen with them?
Okay.
How is their story going to evolve?
Okay.
Or if you just have some sort of theory about something that needs to take place or someone that needs to come in, like if you have an idea of something you want to happen and you're still not sure exactly how it's going to happen, like you need a character that we haven't met yet maybe, but just explain maybe what you want to happen.
Okay.
Even if you don't have the people or the magic ideas that they haven't been brought up yet.
Sure. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Let us know.
Okay.
What do you think? Because it's something like they're all over the internet still, obviously, because once it's on the internet, it stays on the internet.
Right.
But we all came up with some pretty crazy theories, and this is probably a good starting point for it. Even like she said, this is the first time we get unresolved things.
Okay. I got you.
And so you can start with those and anything else you got.
Okay.
But I want to see at least one Muggle theories between now and the beginning of the next book.
You got it, Professor.
Perfect.
I'm going to be like Hermione and go for 320% on this this challenge.
I'm sure the people won't say no.
And now I understand why you wouldn't tell me about the challenge.
Yes.
You sneaky devil.
But Lauren does have a couple questions for you now.
Okay.
Do you see now how so many people call this their favorite book?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, given I've only read 3 books, yes.
Yes. I completely understand.
Yeah.
But you can see just that so much happened that you can imagine why so many people like it.
Yep.
And then she wants to know, can you rank the first 3 books in the order you enjoyed them?
Backwards, 3, 2, 1.
Kind of figured.
Yeah.
I also want to
actually.
Nope.
No.
Yeah.
3, 1, 2.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I do love me a good origin story.
Yeah, it just felt right.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 introduced a lot of new things, but One was special.
I can see it.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about the Patronus that Harry casts in these chapters. I think it is really great imagery that his Patronus is a stag, which is the animal his dad transformed into. This is probably one of my favorite spells in all the series because the wands, like the wands and houses, she means like the houses that you're sorted into at school.
Right. Yeah.
The form can say a lot about someone's personality and or what they care about the most. My thoughts on Harry's Patronus is that he wants so badly to have a relationship with his parents, and especially his father, that his love shows through his Patronus. We've already seen Lily's love save Harry's life in book 1. That is really touching to see his love for James save his life in book 3.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm looking forward to the film review. Again, one of my favorites next week.
High hopes. I have high hopes for this film, but yeah, we'll see.
All right. And then we have, well, I didn't even count this as multiple emails. I suppose I could have. We have an email from Mel.
Hi, Mel.
She wrote in once 4 days ago.
Okay.
Wrote in again 2 days after that.
Okay.
And then wrote once again today.
All right.
So,
Love it.
Hi, Matt and Josh. Just discovered you guys and binged through The Prisoner of Azkaban. People are binging our podcast, Josh.
Impressive. I'm sorry. But...
Yes. I love listening to Josh spin his theories, and at first I will admit I was skeptical and wondered if this was set up because he would get so close to the truth. I have a question for you, Josh. Now that we are close to the halfway point, do you have a theory as to why so many people love Snape?
No. I mean, my only hope is that he does something redeeming. He does something that's like a giant sacrifice for the betterment of whatever's going on. But, like, even then, like, all the stuff is just piling up on, like, why he's such a bad dude that I don't know if, like, one big thing that he could possibly do would still make up for it enough. Not even to, like, just cancel everything out, but to, like, vault him up to the favorite character of people. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I mentioned the date she wrote in for a reason. Because
Okay.
2 days after her first email, 2 days,
Okay.
she wrote in, just adding on, I have now binged Chamber of Secrets.
Good on you. She's going backwards, huh?
Well, yeah, she started with the most recent book. Okay. But still, making it through, I mean, I think I could read the book faster than listening to all of our podcasts.
Sure.
About one book.
Easily.
Like, yeah, I
That's impressive.
That yeah, in 2 days that's impressive.
Yeah.
Says I totally love Josh's reactions to Lockhart. He is a character I love to hate. Although he is absolutely charming compared to future Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers Josh will meet.
Right.
Matt, I admire your self-control in these podcasts. You give nothing away. I have been listening to this at work and struggle to stop myself from gasping and giggling out loud, and your voice is so unwavering. I also have a few questions I thought I would ask. What do you think your animagus would be? Which I think we kind of answered with the Muggle poll tonight.
Right.
Josh, what do you think a Death Eater is?
Man.
You're the one who's brought it up a couple of times.
Well, yeah, because I have a Death Eater wand, Matt.
I know.
I mean, is it okay? In my head, right? Dementors are like the worst of the worst. It doesn't get much worse than a Dementor, in my head. A Death Eater, though, like, Death Eater sounds like it could be the name of a Dementor, but we already know the Dementors are called Dementors. So I'm thinking, like, the Death Eater being almost like what hunts Dementors. You know, like, there has to be something out there that could take down a Dementor other than just Patronus spells. So I'm thinking Death Eaters go around because Dementors are pretty much just death and rot and disgust and grossness. So a Death Eater is something that feasts on Dementors.
Okay. I like it.
No.
Then she says, now that Josh has finished the Prisoner of Azkaban, will he be allowed to do the Pottermore quiz to discover his Patronus? And I think we said we're giving you the green light on that as well.
Yeah.
And then her last email. Sorry to throw in one last email. I'm just loving you guys and the podcast so much. In answer to your Muggle poll, I really tossed up between dog and cat. I think both have awesome advantages. I come from a family of cat lovers and have watched my four-legged friends live a very charmed and lazy life. They lie in the sun and they get pampered by my family. So initially I was going to answer cat. But in the last year have become a very outdoorsy person who loves to ride bikes and run around, and I think a dog would suit me better. I chose dog in the poll because I thought it would be so much fun to just run and be free, and I admit that it might be fun to play fetch.
I think I need to remind Mel here how glorious being a sloth might be.
It's true.
Just throwing that out there.
Yep. If you really want to lay around and do nothing.
Yeah. With zero expectations.
All right. So, once again, I promise you I do not purposely leave his till last. It has just the way they come in.
Yep.
The one, the only, Atari Alex.
Hi, Alex. Let's do this.
Dear Josh and Matt. Well, we have arrived at the end of the third book and has certainly been a doozy. It's a shame we won't know where this book ranks as far as Josh's favorites until he reaches the end of the series. But if his fervor over trying to deduce the mystery is any indication, I'd wager it'll be high up on the list. I don't have anything to add from last week's show other than to beg for forgiveness over my comma error. As I said, I am only human and make mistakes from time to time. I'm going to pause right there and say, Alex, I'm sorry. I do apologize. I should not have pulled that one out on the air. Josh even tried to stop me, but I went through with it anyway, and I've kind of felt bad about it all week. So,
look at that. The finality of this book is bringing you two together. I love it.
I promise I will try to fix any errors like I would in anybody else's email. As for the final two chapters, let's just say that Hermione's secret is like an entire episode of Doctor Who wrapped into 20-ish pages.
Yeah, no kidding.
Fun to experience, slightly overwhelming to think about.
Slightly understatement.
I also have a couple of other questions, a rarity for my emails for the show. First off, why do you think that Peter Pettigrew was placed in Gryffindor? I've never been able to figure that out. The description we are given of him tells us he is cowardly and allies himself with those more powerful than he. The exact opposite traits of a true Gryffindor.
Maybe the Sorting Hat was drunk. Too much butterbeer for the Sorting Hat. Or there's more to Peter Pettigrew than meets the eye.
Well, I'm going to do something I don't usually do. And bring in some knowledge that is not given directly in the books.
Okay.
But J.K. Rowling has addressed on Pottermore.
Okay. Because other people have wondered the same thing?
Yep.
All right. Fair enough.
So, Peter Pettigrew is a rare case. He is the not recipient. That's not a good word for it.
Exception to the rule.
Yeah, he is one of a special case in which it is known as a hat stall.
Okay.
It says true hat stalls are rare, occurring once around every 50 years. But near hat stalls may be more common. So a hat stall is when the sorting hat takes more than 5 minutes to decide where to sort a student.
Okay.
And
so it's like filibustering itself?
Kind of. It's extremely rare.
Okay.
But JK has specifically addressed a couple of these. The only true hat stalls that we know of are Peter Pettigrew and Minerva McGonagall.
Huh.
Yeah. So for McGonagall, it says the sorting hat spent about 5.5 minutes wavering between Gryffindor and Ravenclaw before deciding to place her in the former.
Remember that Ravenclaw wasn't a thing.
Yes. And Peter Pettigrew, the sorting hat placed him in Gryffindor after a long deliberation between that and the House of Slytherin.
Shocker.
Yeah.
Shocker.
So
you know what this sounds like to me, Matt?
Yeah.
This just sounds like JK possibly just backpedaling a little bit, being like, "Yeah, I didn't mean for him to be in Gryffindor. That's my bad." Going back and explaining something that really doesn't really have an explanation.
Well, I will say she does give a little more explanation.
Okay.
But it involves future events.
Oh, God. I can't even argue against JK right now because you won't let me know what's going on. Okay. All right. Fair enough. In a couple years, we'll go back. We'll revisit this conversation. Alex and Matt, you guys could have an off-air conversation about what's going on.
But yeah, for anyone else out there listening to the podcast that is not Josh, feel free to look up hat stalls. It's fairly interesting.
Google.
No. Not Josh. But yeah, I found it interesting too, like some of the other near hat stalls include like Hermione and Neville. Took about like 4 minutes each.
Sure.
Hermione was between Ravenclaw or Gryffindor, kind of like McGonagall.
Let me guess, Neville. Just let me guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hufflepuff all the way.
There you go.
Yeah. I know a fellow Hufflepuff when I see one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second, I have a question specifically for Josh. Since we now know that Scabbers is Pettigrew.
Yeah.
And I know you're still trying to work out who Crookshanks is.
Yep.
Do you have any theories as to who Hedwig might be?
No, that's now.
There's no way 2/3 of the kids would have an animagus as pets and Harry would be left out. Nah. J.K. Rowling wouldn't break a pattern like that.
Yeah, he's special. He's the rule breaker.
Think so?
Yeah. Hedwig's just a now. Crap.
Okay.
Now I'm thinking about it. Thanks, Alex. Thanks.
Hey, how'd you know the last 2 words of the email?
Well, I know what I'm including in my Muggle theories for next book. The revelation of Hedwig being blank.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up our emails.
Awesome.
Yeah. We have our movie next week.
We do.
I do want to remind people once again that if you want to get your iTunes review submitted, make sure to take that screenshot and send it in to talesfromgodric's hollow@gmail.com.
Yep.
I promise you we will be having a giveaway regarding those reviews very soon. I believe I'm planning on next week, because this week we still have a giveaway going on.
We do. It's the Show Us Your Bookmark giveaway. We are challenging you guys out there, the wonderful listening audience, to do exactly that. Show us your bookmark. Just take a picture of whatever bookmark you use while reading through Harry Potter. Be creative with it. I love all the pictures so far of people that are listening via audiobooks that are contributing their bookmarks in some way, shape, or form.
It's true. Those were good.
Yeah. We're all inclusive here. So whatever your choice of bookmark is, just send us a photo. We have 3 handmade snitch bookmarks to give away to 3 lucky winners. Matt and I are going to be selecting those after all submissions are in. So just send us a tweet with a picture of your bookmark, whatever else you want to include in there. And we will sort through those. By next week, we will announce the winner on next week's show. So be sure to send those in to our Twitter feed at TalesFromGH. And I've been trying to retweet all of them that come in. We've had a lot of fun ones so far, and I look forward to seeing a lot more. So,
yeah.
That's about it, Matt. Let's wrap this up.
Let's do it.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Sayonara, Book 3. You can find me personally on Twitter at The Noise. Again, be sure to follow the show on Twitter at TalesFromGH. Send in those bookmarks. Let us favorite them and retweet them and sing your praises for having really cool and creative bookmarks, because you guys are special. And if you'd like to get in on a lot of great stuff, help out with the giveaways that we have planned and such and so forth, you could support us over on Patreon, patreon.com/Tales from Godric's Hollow. Matt, where can people reach out and find you at?
You can find me personally on Twitter at As a Matter of Matt. Or if you want to send in an email, I know many of you already have this address down, as we're getting more and more emails every week, but we will always take more. Honestly, I have a feeling if we start getting so many emails, we might just split it off into a separate show or something.
Sure.
But yeah, you can send those to talesfromgodricshollow@gmail.com.
And stop sending in emails about book 5, 6, and 7. We're on book 4 in 2 weeks. Let's focus on that, people. Let's focus. Let's keep it reined in here a little bit. It just honestly drives me crazy that you guys are having all these cool secret conversations without me. So I want to be part of the Marauders too, Matt.
It's all jealousy. That's all it comes down to.
It's my own fault. But
Yep.
yes.
We're getting you there.
This was fun. This is a great book. I look forward to watching the movie. I know a particular spouse of mine that's going to be jazzed that this podcast is over, because we can now watch the 3rd movie together, and she is going to enjoy that. So I encourage everybody to go check out Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban on whichever device you can watch it from. It's going to be a lot of fun. Along with your bookmarks, how about you tweet in some pictures of how you are sitting back, kicking back, enjoying this film. Are you drinking some butterbeer? Are you eating popcorn? Are you nibbling on a boulder full of chocolate? Let us know. Show us how you relax and watch Harry Potter. Until next week, Muggle out.
Mischief managed.